It is the long history of humankind that those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. A fine example of these words is the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, formerly known as the Indian Merchants Chamber. The chamber is the voice of over 200,000 corporates with a combined strength of more than 4,500 members and 220 trade and educational institutions. Identified as a chamber with a global presence, IMC is on the board of the World Chambers Federation and has signed MOUs with the United Nations and more than 150 other chambers of commerce across various countries and government agencies. With the numbers still growing, the IMC has gained the strength to be the undisputed voice of Indian industry.
We are very proud of the fact we therefore represent the cream of the cream industry in this country. On the one hand, we help our members. On the other, we submit recommendations to the government so that they can institute policies which can ease and accelerate the business in India. Our activities include running seminars, holding exhibitions, we host inbound delegations, we take outbound delegations, and we facilitate international trade, which we believe is crucial to India's development.
IMC has spanned over 11 decades. To understand the spirit of IMC, one must go back in time.
Indian Merchants Chamber started in 1907 under the leadership of the visionary Manmohan Das Ramji, the eminent Indian businessman.
The economic policies of the then alien government in India were dictated by associations which had no other interests but to look after the welfare of the colonizers and traders. And it was such associations, uncaring and unfair economic policies that made Indian traders and merchants realize the need to form their own chamber, Indian Merchants Chamber.
These gentlemen of great experience, great patriotism, lent their support, their advice and their knowledge to government in formulating policies.
I want to compliment the IMC on its proactive liaison and advocacy efforts with ministers, senior bureaucrats and civil society. Its repository of accumulated knowledge, its long experience and the cohesion amongst its institutional and corporate members enable the IMC to work very closely with the Indian government on policy matters essential for development and growth.
This was the only chamber whose honorary membership Mahatma Gandhi accepted. Starting with only 23 members, the IMC's membership grew over the years, with many prominent icons of industry as members, as well as parliamentarians and those who later became cabinet ministers. From Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Shri Narendra Modi, IMC has the rare honor of visits by almost all the presidents and prime ministers of India. Inaugurated by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in 1939, this prestigious IMC building stands in the heart of South Mumbai. In 1967, as a memorial for the late Mr. F.E. Dinshaw, a well-equipped commercial and financial library was built. The then Honorable Chief Justice of the Mumbai High Court, Mr. Mohit Shah, inaugurated IMC's International ADR Center.
Cases are pending for years and years. IMC has taken a lead and set up an international ADR center which will cover all alternate dispute resolutions, including reconciliation and mediation.
The IMC Provincial Ravi Gandhi Chair in Banking and Finance was instituted to perpetuate the memories of late Sri Provincial Gandhi, who was a trustee as well as a past president of IMC. The chair serves dual purposes: promote our own national university of eminence, that is the Mumbai University, and secondly, fulfill the long-felt need as there was no chair for banking and finance in the University of Mumbai.
IMC also has a strong ladies' wing, promoting professional excellence of women entrepreneurs.
In these past years, we have achieved a lot. We have empowered a lot of women from the urban sector. For Impact, which we hold on Women's Day, we found that the woman artisan in the rural area is to be celebrated. So we synergized with the urban woman and the rural woman and brought each other into focus.
IMC initiates a number of conferences on topical national interests in various sectors like infrastructure, banking, financial services, aviation, urban development, railways, and many more. IMC also hosts a number of foreign and Indian dignitaries.
IMC approached me to help them get involved in actually creating a startup committee. Our agenda, therefore, was defined as thought leadership, advocacy, and partnerships, and extremely excited to participate with several youngsters from across the state, and we spoke about building companies and entrepreneurship.
A variety of awards have been initiated by IMC to encourage innovation, quality, and development in various fields.
IMC is very proud to have the Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Award and the Juran Quality Medal. This we started over 20 years back to get Indian corporates to assist them to be able to focus on quality and compete in the world. I must also mention the IMC Juran Quality Medal, and that is given to an individual. The Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Award is for corporates, the most prestigious quality award in the country.
IMC encourages innovation, recognizing outstanding services and accomplishments of organizations and individuals with the Inclusive Innovation Awards.
And there was a reason to create these awards, Inclusive Innovation Awards. See, India needs growth, but it has to be inclusive growth. And for that, you require inclusive innovation, because it is only innovation-led growth that can take India up there.
In terms of social responsibilities, IMC has been active through a number of forums. As India races towards a bright future, the IMC is accentuating its progress with its vital strength and leadership by aligning its aims with those of the governments, ensuring India's transformation to a fully developed economy.
IMC will do everything in its power, and so will its members, to achieve this objective, to put India on that pinnacle which India deserves to be.
Our collective ambition must be to take India, Indian enterprises, and the Indian economy to the top of the global ladder. Let us build a grand coalition of all Indians under the auspices of IMC for building a new India today. IMC will have a big role to play in building and nurturing this partnership.
आप जिस संस्था का हिस्सा हैं, उसका बहुत ही गौरवशाली इतिहास रहा है। स्वदेशी आंदोलन की पृष्ठभूमि में इसकी स्थापना हुई है, कुछ न कुछ योगदान दिया है, और इसके लिए आपकी संस्था प्रशंसा के पात्र है। आईएमसी मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं। धन्यवाद।
I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. Yes, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. I don't wanna hear all of your worries about the cat. I'm pretty sure that he always used to look like that. Just because the hors d'oeuvres have disappeared and I'm a little fat, doesn't mean I can do it. I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a real,
Good dogs can make bad decisions. Protect them with FG Dog Health Cover, a comprehensive health insurance plan that covers surgery and hospitalization, emergency pet minding, vet visits, and more.
Well, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming all the dignitaries to this wonderful event. IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Young Leaders Forum welcome you all to the online Mega Youth Conclave India's with the theme, Ideating India at 100, the Voice of Youth. Well, my name is Bhavna Bhatia, and it's an honor for me to host this wonderful 2 days of program. And as our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has said, that the youth of India have democratic values and with the demographic dividend. Today, the youth of India has the ability of hard work, then there's also a clarity about the future. This is why what India says today, the world considers it for tomorrow. Today's youth has that can-do spirit, which is a source of inspiration for every generation. India's youth is writing the code of global prosperity. On this note, I encourage the youth of our country to carry that beacon of knowledge and hope and excel in their endeavors. And I heartily congratulate the students who have the opportunity to talk amongst this platform for the next 2 days. Today, indeed, is going to be a great day where we're going to be joined by some of the great leaders of various industries whom we heartily thank for taking out their valuable time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, also I would like to thank the Maharashtra State Innovation Society for supporting the event. We wish to express a profound thanks to our gold sponsor, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, and our associate sponsor, Ebullient Packaging Private Limited, OC Specialties Private Limited, and Bhavya Container and Estate Company. We request you, if you have, to visit the resource center that will give you an access to the agenda, the profile of the speakers, the IMC journal, the IMC membership, YLF membership, commercial examination, and the venues. And of course, if there's any other information, you can also go on to the May I Help You section in the lobby area. Remember, this entire seminar is going to be streamed live on the IMC's YouTube channel and the Facebook page. We also urge all of you who are attending and are participating in the event to spread the word about this event. And how do we do that? Well, all you got to do is hashtag IMC YLF Youth Conclave 2022 as one word. I'd like to repeat it again, IMC YLF Youth Conclave 2022 as one word. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on this note, it is indeed my honor to now extend a very warm invite to Mr. Chusa Kurakiwala, President, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to welcome our audience. Over to you, Mr. Kurakiwala.
Thank you, Bhavna. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you. We thank our chief guest, Shri Anuragji Thakur, Honorable Union Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Youth Affairs and Sports, for his support. However, unfortunately, he is unable to make it due to current exigencies. Of honor, Dr. Deepika Sardava, esteemed motivational speaker, Dr. Sai Kaustubh Dasgupta, happiness coach, TEDx speaker, author. Esteemed speakers and guests of honor over the 2 days of the Youth Conclave, distinguished delegates and students from India and countries across the world. On behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industries Young Leaders Forum, I present my compliments and extend my grateful thanks to all of you for the honor of joining us at this conclave. This year, as the nation is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the conclave is dedicated to the commemoration of the 75 years of India's independence. We are now stepping into the glorious Amrit Kal, The Youth Conclave 2022 will have focused discussion on various initiatives of the Government of India during the period to propel the country on the path of growth, thereby building a country that global power houses. The government has taken many initiatives to foster entrepreneurship and build a robust startup ecosystem. Technology has emerged as a powerful tool in the hands of the youth. India's digital solutions are enhancing the ease of living and paving the path for self-reliance, thus taking us forward to being Atmanirbhar. It is our youth with their creative thinking, dreams, and zeal who will lead us to a better India. We have been blessed and honored to be bestowed by the Honorable Prime Minister's blessings for 2 years in a row now. And it is my honor and privilege to read out the Honorable Prime Minister's letter. I am pleased to learn that the Youth Conclave titled Ideating India at 100, Voice of Youth, is being organized by Young Leaders Forum of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The initiative to hold deliberations on the way ahead from India at 75 to India at 100 at the 2-day conclave is commendable. Our Yuva Shakti has been the nation's greatest strength. The contribution of our youth is transforming various spheres of activity. With intent, intellect, and skills, our youth is driven by hopes and aspirations. During the last 8 years, our government has taken holistic measures aimed at all-round progress of the youth, be it through far-reaching reforms in the education sector, assimilating latest technological skills, or creating a robust ecosystem for innovation, startups, and entrepreneurship. We have been steadfast in our efforts to empower the youth. The collective strength of more than 130 crore citizens is driving the nation's resolve to build a strong, glorious India. In the midst of Amrit Mahotsav, the unending energy and spirit of our youth is pivotal in creating a self-reliant India. The Amrit period of next 25 years is crucial to take the nation to new heights at the global stage. In this context, endeavors such as this Youth Conclave play an important role in generating fresh ideas to realize our vision. The interactive discussions during the sessions will help in drawing up a futuristic roadmap. Best wishes to everyone at IMC YLF for making the Youth Conclave a success. Narendra Modi. Before I conclude, I would like to briefly acquaint you with our chamber. IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry has a rich legacy of over a century of being in service of nation building and working for benefit of trade, commerce, and industry since its inception in 1907. Headquartered in Mumbai, the chamber has since evolved into an industry body that represents the voice of over 400,000 businesses and industry establishments across India from diverse sectors of industry, with its membership base of over 5,000 members and over 150 trade associations affiliated to it. The Chamber's core function is to provide policy inputs and to promote interests of industry and economic growth of the country. The Chamber is now a cradle for nurturing young talents and promoting emancipation of women through Young Leaders Forum and Ladies Wing, which have become embodiment of youth, enterprise, positivism, proactive thought leadership, and movement for women empowerment and entrepreneurship. The theme for the year is Engaging Maharashtra, Building India. Amongst its various initiatives, IMC has taken an important step to provide a platform for our young minds. Students across countries, international institutes, youth leaders from across political spectrums, young professionals from startups and various unicorns in their respective fields are set to voice their aspiration and ideate India's growth and strategies. Once again, I welcome you all to this interesting, enriching, and insightful event. I am sure you would go back enriched and empowered to make an impact. I am reminded of a timely quote by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Have a great day. filled with learning and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph Kurakiwala. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that deserves a huge round of applause, and we can applaud one another today. Even though if it's on a virtual platform, let's showcase the energy with a huge round of applause. Well, ladies and gentlemen, after that wonderful address, it is indeed my honor to call upon our guest of honor. Well, a young dynamic leader qualified as a PhD doctor. Her research articles have been published in several books. Her past experiences are as follows: of being executive member of the Bhopal Huma Mandal, Ahmedabad district in 2018, in charge of the Bawala Taluka, convener of the Bhopal area, Umya Parivar in Kadwa, Patidar Samaj. He has also served as a professor at the Swarnim Startup and Innovation University and has been working with the Bharatiya Janata Party Ahmedabad District Mahila Morcha since 2013. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to now invite our guest of honor, Dr. Deepika Sachin Sardava, President Mahila Morcha BJP Gujarat State. Well, with this, thank you so much, and I'd heartily welcome Dr. Deepika to join us.
थैंक यू वेरी मच। इस मीटिंग में जुड़े हुए मिस्टर जुजार कोलाकीवाला, प्रेसिडेंट आईएमसी, मिस्टर अनंत सिंघानिया, प्रेसिडेंट इलेक्टेड, मिस्टर अजीत मांगरुलकर, डायरेक्टर जनरल, मिस्टर संजय मेहता, डेप्यूटी डायरेक्टर जनरल, मिस शीतल कालरो, डेप्यूटी डायरेक्टर जनरल, मिस विधि दोशी, चेयरमैन IMC Young Leader Forum, and Mr. Sardul Shah, co-chairman IMC Young Leader Forum. इस मीटिंग में जुड़े हुए सब स्टूडेंट्स, सबका मैं अभिवादन कर रही हूँ, सबका मैं स्वागत कर रही हूँ। मुझे खुशी हो रही है कि युवा नेताओं द्वारा आयोजित IMC यूथ कॉन्क्लेव 2022 का मुझे हिस्सा बनने का मौका मिला और आज के युवाओं से बात करने का मुझे अवसर मिल रहा है। यह सम्मेलन आइडिएटिंग इंडिया 100 विषय पर आयोजित किया गया है। आज जब देश आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहा है, तभी युवाओं की आवाज की देश को जरूरत है और इसका उद्देश्य सरकार को विकास के पथ पर काम करना है। एक मजबूत और प्रगतिशील राष्ट्र का निर्माण करने का भी युवाओं द्वारा जो अभी और राष्ट्र निर्माण करना उनका जो उद्देश्य है, इसी बात का मुझे बहुत गौरव है। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव के माध्यम से भारत अपने लोगों के गौरवशाली इतिहास, संस्कृति और उपलब्धियों का जश्न मना रहा है। यह उन सभी का एक प्रयास है जो प्रगतिशील भारत की सामाजिक, सांस्कृतिक, राजनीतिक, आर्थिक पहचान बनी है। इसमें सरकार की नीतियां शामिल है, योजनाएं, हमारी जो कार्य योजनाएं जो विचारों को साकार करने में मदद करेगी और सामूहिक रूप से बेहतर राष्ट्र बनाने में मदद करेगी। पिछले कुछ वर्षों में भारत को नई ऊंचाइयों पर पहुंचाने के लिए सरकार द्वारा कई पहल की गई है। इन कदमों की वजह से अर्थव्यवस्था को बढ़ावा देने में विकास और आत्मनिर्भरता महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई है। आत्मनिर्भर भारत न केवल भारत को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने का नहीं, बल्कि दुनिया के लिए ये मददरूप हो सकता है। इस तरह से हम फक्त भारत को आत्मनिर्भर न बना के पूरी दुनिया को हम आत्मनिर्भर बना सकते हैं। हम आज सबसे बड़ी युवा आबादी वाला हमारा ये भारत देश है, जो आकांक्षी है, डिजिटल रूप से जुड़ा हुआ है और सबसे ज्यादा साक्षर हमारा भारत देश है। युवा आज इस देश का चेहरा है और उनके पास आर्थिक विकास और विकास में तेजी लाने के लिए उपकरण, साधन और आकांक्षाएं हैं। आज देश में बड़ी संख्या में मल्टीनेशनल कंपनियों ने भारत में गहरी जड़ें जमा ली है, जिसकी वजह से भारत में निवेश करने के लिए दुनिया भर के माध्यम से वो आकार के संगठनों का नजरिया बदलता है। और जो नजरिया उन्होंने बदला है और उनके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा ये अवसर है जिसको सभी पूर्ण मूल्यांकन कर रहे हैं। आज भारत प्रति सप्ताह एक यूनिकॉर्न बन रहा है और हमारे स्टार्टअप अब इकोसिस्टम आत्मनिर्भर भारत, स्टार्टअप इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया और इन्वेस्ट इन इंडिया जैसी पहल की वजह से पूरे विश्व में तीसरा सबसे बड़ा हमारा इकोसिस्टम है। और भारत का ये जो अद्वितीय जनसांख्यिक लाभ गतिशील दुनिया में आज के अवसरों की अधिकता प्रस्तुत करता है। जैसा भारत इस जनसांख्यिक बदलाव का अनुभव कर रहा है, बदलते समय के साथ ही सामाजिक गतिशीलता और तकनीकी विकास देश की आर्थिक क्षमता को साकार करने में युवा आबादी महत्वपूर्ण योगदान देगी। सदी की शुरुआत के बाद से ही भारत के शानदार आर्थिक प्रदर्शन ने पूरे विश्व के ध्यान को आकर्षित किया है। भारत की कहानी का विश्व स्तर पर अनुसरण और अवलोकन किया जा रहा है। यह हमारा ही युवा है जिसकी रचनात्मक सोच, जिसके सपने और जोश हमें एक बेहतर भारत की ओर ले जाएगा। और मुझे यकीन है कि हम आने वाले वर्षों में तेज गति से हमारा देश का युवा तेज गति से विकास करेंगे। मैं अब उन विषयों पर युवाओं के विचारों को सुनने के लिए भी उत्सुक हूं जो हमारे प्रधानमंत्री के गतिशील शक्ति, क्लाइमेट, स्मार्ट इंडिया, आत्मनिर्भर भारत, वोकल फॉर लोकल, स्टार्टअप इंडिया जैसी सरकार की जो पहल है, जो भारत के भविष्य की कल्पना करने में बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाने वाली है। और भारत अभी उनका 75 आजादी का जो अमृत महोत्सव चल रहा है, वो 75 से 100 ईयर यानी कि 25 ईयर का ये जो रोड मैप है, उन्होंने जो 75 से 100 ईयर के उनके रोड मैप तक का जो ये मार्ग प्रशस्त किया है, उसमें युवाओं का जो योगदान है वो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण रहने वाला है। तो आज ये यूथ कॉन्क्लेव में आप सबने मुझे इनवाइट किया है, तब मैं आईएमसी की आभारी हूँ। और ज्यादा से ज्यादा आज युवाओं को मैं सुन पाऊं, इसलिए ज्यादा बात न करते हुए मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देगी। भारत माता की जय, वंदे मातरम। Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deepika ji, for joining us and giving us such a great start, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest of honor, and let's applaud her with our virtual applause as we thank our guest of honor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to now invite for the vote of thanks of our inauguration ceremony, Mr. Anand Singhania, President-elect IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to please join us. Mr. Singhania, over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna. What should I say? It's my privilege and pleasure to present the vote of thanks at the end of this very interesting inaugural session of the IMC Youth Leaders Forum Conclave 2022 on behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce at the Young Leaders Forum. I would really like to thank our chief guest, Sri Anurag Thakurji, Honorable Union Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Youth Affairs and Sport, for his continued support. We are grateful to our guest of honor, Dr. Deepika Sardaba, President BJP Mahila Morcha from Gujarat, for setting the tone for the event to follow. Dr. Deepika spoke about the importance of empowering the youth, skilling them and aiding them as the growth drivers in India. India has the largest demographic dividend of youth that shall propel the growth to our Honorable Modi ji's vision for India at 100 and doubling our economy to $6 trillion. We have very interesting sessions lined up over the course of the 2 days of the conclave. And I would especially like to thank our esteemed motivational speaker, Dr. Sai Kaustubh Dasgupta, who's a happiness coach and a TEDx speaker. I also like to thank our esteemed speakers, moderators, and special addresses over the 2 days of the Youth Conclave. Our partner institutes who have consented from Pan-India and globally to be part of this event. And I'd like to thank the Maharashtra State Innovation Society for supporting this event. Further, we wish to express our profound thanks to our gold sponsors, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, and associate sponsors, Ebullient Packaging Private Limited, OC Specialty Private Limited, and Bhavya Container and Estate Company. Without their gracious support, it would not have been possible to hold this event. We look forward to their continued cooperation in all our future endeavors. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank our chairperson of the Youth Wing, Ms. Vidhi Doshi, as well as the organizing committee and the team IMC for conceptualizing and structuring such an interesting conclave and bringing together such prominent personalities to speak at this platform. Thanks goes to the media representatives, our digital platform archers, and our MC Bhavna for their support, and to all the delegates and students for joining us in such large numbers. As our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi has said, Yuva Deva Bhava, Yuva Shakti Devo Bhaya. Today's youth are dynamic, passionate, ambitious, and focused, all of which are detrimental for our success. Our youth can and will play a pivotal role in building our nation and creating an impact on the world at large. Shri Modi ji, please accept our sincere gratitude for your inspiring personalized letter, motivating the youth of India and all of us at the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. All you participants and speakers, your presence is a source of encouragement to the Chamber, and thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singhania. Ladies and gentlemen, let's applaud one another. What a great, vote of thanks that's been, and exactly the points, Mr. Singhania, I would like to have covered, which was really thanking all our esteemed dignitaries for joining us, and of course, our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, for that personalized letter. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great day ahead. We've got great sessions coming up, some amazing students joining us. So with this, first up, I'd like to cue in for our gold sponsor, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited. Let's understand them better. And of course, IMC Chamber of Commerce Industry. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry, let's get to know them better through an audio visual.
Oh, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. Yes, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. I don't want to hear all of your worries about the cat. I'm pretty sure that he always used to look like that. Just because the hors d'oeuvres have disappeared and I'm a little fat doesn't mean I do it. I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a real.
Good dogs can make bad decisions. Protect them with FG Dog Health Cover, a comprehensive health insurance plan that covers surgery and hospitalization, emergency pet minding, vet visits, and more.
It is the long history of humankind that those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. A fine example of these words is the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, formerly known as the Indian Merchants Chamber. The chamber is the voice of over 200,000 corporates with a combined strength of more than 4,500 members and 220 trade and educational institutions. Identified as a chamber with a global presence, IMC is on the board of the World Chambers Federation and has signed MOUs with the United Nations and more than 150 other chambers of commerce across various countries and government agencies. With the numbers still growing, the IMC has gained the strength to be the undisputed voice of Indian industry.
We are very proud of the fact we therefore represent the cream of the cream industry in this country. On the one hand, we help our members. On the other, we submit recommendations to the government so that they can institute policies which can ease and accelerate the business in India. Our activities include running seminars, holding exhibitions, we host inbound delegations, we take outbound delegations, and we facilitate international trade, which we believe is crucial to India's development.
IMC has spanned over 11 decades. To understand the spirit of IMC, one must go back in time.
Indian Merchants Chamber started in 1907 under the leadership of the visionary Manmohan Das Ramji, the eminent Indian businessman.
The economic policies of the then alien government in India were dictated by associations which had no other interests but to look after the welfare of the colonizers and traders. And it was such associations, uncaring and unfair economic policies that made Indian traders and merchants realize the need to form their own chamber, Indian Merchants Chamber.
These gentlemen of great experience, great patriotism, lent their support, their advice and their knowledge to government in formulating policies.
I want to compliment the IMC on its proactive liaison and advocacy efforts with ministers, senior bureaucrats, and civil society. Its repository of accumulated knowledge, its long experience, and the cohesion amongst its institutional and corporate members enable the IMC to work very closely with the Indian government on policy matters essential for development and growth.
This was the only chamber whose honorary membership Mahatma Gandhi accepted. Starting with only 23 members, the IMC's membership grew over the years, with many prominent icons of industry as members, as well as parliamentarians and those who later became cabinet ministers. From Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Shri Narendra Modi, IMC has the rare honor of visits by almost all the presidents and prime ministers of India. Inaugurated by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in 1939, this prestigious IMC building stands in the heart of South Mumbai. In 1967, as a memorial for the late Mr. F.E. Dinshaw, a well-equipped commercial and financial library was built. The then Honorable Chief Justice of the Mumbai High Court, Mr. Mohit Shah, inaugurated IMC's International ADR Center.
Cases are pending for years and years. IMC has taken a lead and set up an international ADR center which will cover all alternate dispute resolutions, including reconciliation and mediation.
The IMC Praveen Ravi Gandhi Chair in Banking and Finance, who instituted to perpetuate the memories of late Sri Praveen Gandhi, who was a trustee as well as a past president of IMC. The chair serves dual purposes: promote our own National University of Eminence, that is the Mumbai University, and secondly, fulfill the long-felt need as there was no chair for banking and finance in the University of Mumbai.
IMC also has a strong ladies' wing, promoting professional excellence of women entrepreneurs.
In these past years, we have achieved a lot. We have empowered a lot of women from the urban sector for impact which we hold on Women's Day. We found that the woman artisan in the rural area is to be celebrated. So we synergized with the urban woman and the rural woman and brought each other into focus.
IMC initiates a number of conferences on topical national interests in various sectors like infrastructure, banking, financial services, aviation, urban development, railways, and many more. IMC also hosts a number of foreign and Indian dignitaries.
IMC approached me to help them get involved in actually creating a startup committee. Our agenda, therefore, was defined as thought leadership, advocacy, and partnerships, and extremely excited to participate with several youngsters from across the state, and we spoke about building companies and entrepreneurship.
A variety of awards have been initiated by IMC to encourage innovation, quality, and development in various fields.
IMC is very proud to have the Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Award and the Juran Quality Medal. This we started over 20 years back to get Indian corporates to assist them to be able to focus on quality and compete in the world. I must also mention the IMC Juran Quality Medal, and that is given to an individual. The Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Award is for corporates, the most prestigious quality award in the country.
IMC encourages innovation, recognizing outstanding services and accomplishments of organizations and individuals with the Inclusive Innovation Awards.
And there was a reason to create these awards, Inclusive Innovation Awards. See, India needs growth, but it has to be inclusive growth. And for that, you require inclusive innovation, because it is only innovation-led growth that can take India up there.
In terms of social responsibilities, IMC has been active through a number of forums. As India races towards a bright future, the IMC is accentuating its progress with its vital strength and leadership by aligning its aims with those of the governments, ensuring India's transformation to a fully developed economy.
IMC will do everything in its power, and so will its members, to achieve this objective, to put India on that pinnacle which India deserves to be.
Our collective ambition must be to take India, Indian enterprises, and the Indian economy to the top of the global ladder. Let us build a grand coalition of all Indians under the auspices of IMC for building a new India today. IMC will have a big role to play in building and nurturing this partnership.
आप जिस संस्था का हिस्सा है, उसका बहुत ही गौरवशाली इतिहास रहा है। स्वदेशी आंदोलन की पृष्ठभूमि में इसकी स्थापना हुई है, कुछ न कुछ योगदान दिया है, और इसके लिए आपकी संस्था प्रशंसा के पात्र है। आईएमसी मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं। धन्यवाद।
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, now welcome back. Well, what a great inauguration this has been, and I'd like to heartily welcome all of you once again. Well, it is now time for our first session, which is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav beginning of Gati Shakti. Well, Gati Shakti is an initiative of the Government of India to celebrate and commemorate 45 years of progressive India and its glorious history of its people, culture, and achievements. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is my honor to now call upon our guests of honor, our panelists. And first up, I'd like to introduce you to the moderator of the panel discussion, Mr. Zirkis Master, President, Association of Multimodal Transport Operators of India. Mr. Master is the Joint Managing Director of the Master Group of companies having diversified interests in survey, logistics, power, and IT services. He's somebody who's obtained a degree in the Master of Science in Shipping from the University of Plymouth, UK, and currently he oversees the entire group's business activities, including the transformation into digitalization. He's also been the youngest president, ladies and gentlemen, of the Indo-Belgium-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce and Industry in 2014 to 2015, and also has been on the board of Air Cargo Agents Association of India in 2013 to 2014. We'd like to heartily welcome Mr. Zirkis Master. Thank you so much for agreeing to be our moderator for today. Also with this, as we have him, we're going to be now welcoming our esteemed panelists. First up, Ms. Vinita Dalal, founder, Capital of Head of Fundraising of Rustomjee Group. Well, Ms. Vinita Dalal is the head of the fundraising of the Rustomjee Group, which is into construction and education in the MMR region. Prior to this, Ms. Dalal gained her experience from the Godrej Properties and Tata Consultancy Services for a brief period, and also was a part of the team that set up the Rustomjee International Business School in 2008. Real estate has been truly her passion, and she's worked with IKEA to forge a brand partnership to deliver fully furnished homes. She also served on the CREDAI National Board, of course, CREDAI, the industry board of developers with more than 13,000 members. Across the years, towards her contributions towards the industry, she's won a lot of accolades. A few I'd like to highlight. Women Achiever of the Year, ET Now Real Estate Awards in 2019, and the recent being by the Realty Plus 40 Under 40 in the Real Estate Inaugural Edition 2021, and Realty Plus Women's Young Achiever Award for 2021. With this, I'd like to heartily welcome Ms. Dalal to our forum. Thank you so much for joining us. Also joining would be Mr. Darshan Hiranandani, Group Director, Hiranandani Group. Mr. Hiranandani leads the two new verticals of the Hiranandani Group, which is the Edge Energy Global Limited, where he's the Managing Director and CEO, and the Yota Infrastructure Solutions LLP, where he's the Managing Partner that has developed Asia's largest Tier 4 data center. He's somebody who holds a master's degree with major in entrepreneurship and finance from the Rochester Institute of Technology, USA. Darshan has started his professional career pioneering the development of 23 Marina, a 90-story, 400M residential tower in Dubai, the world's third largest residential tower, which generated more than 250 million in US dollars in revenue. As a part of the board of directors of the Hiranandani Group, his achievements also include the development of the very well-renowned Dr. L.H. Hiranandani Hospital under the Hiranandani Foundation, which won the coveted Ramakrishna Bajaj Award for the best hospital in India. With this, I'd like to heartily welcome Mr. Darshan Hiranandani on our forum. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to pass on the live baton to Mr. Zirkis Master to take it forth with his esteemed panel. Mr. Master, over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Welcome, Binita and Darshan, to this session. It's a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you, IMC, for this opportunity, and also for the chance to speak on the Gati Shakti, the Prime Minister's initiative at the Youth Conclave 2022. Before I start my interaction with the panelists, for the uninitiated, Gati Shakti is a vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, a national master plan for multimodal connectivity. It is essentially a digital platform to bring 16 ministries, including railways and roadways, together for integrated planning and coordinated implementation of infrastructure connectivity projects. The multimodal connectivity will provide integrated and seamless connectivity for movement of people, goods, and services from one mode of transport to another. It will facilitate the last mile connectivity of infrastructure and also reduce travel time for people. So this is a path-breaking initiative to make India one of the most cost-efficient countries and have the lowest cost of logistics in the world. I think it's definitely a thing to look forward to for the Indian business and Indian industry. With this, I would like to take the expert view of our panel today. And Vinita, we'll start with you. What's your view on Gati Shakti, its practicality and challenges on the implementation of the same?
Firstly, thank you so much, Mr. Xerxes, and thank you so much to the entire IMC team. I'm extremely honored to be here today to speak to the youth, and especially on a conversation that relates to the future of this country on a plan that our Honorable Prime Minister launched on the 13th of October 2021 to make the next 25 years of our country memorable and, in a way, path-breaking. And he's hit the nail right in terming it as Gati Shakti, and he's hit the nail extremely right to kind of look at infrastructure development to boost the growth of this country. I think the challenges, or I would say the areas that Gati Shakti will cover, is actually what largely were a challenge, were an issue for the growth of infrastructure in this country. Globally, when you go, you look at infrastructure as being a backbone for every country's growth and every country's, I would say, preference for investment for new manufacturing initiatives or new industries to come in. But when someone looks at India, I think largely everyone always mentioned is that the connectivity, the railways, the network for people to have transport and infrastructure has been a backlag. So I think it's a positive in what he's trying to do. But whenever you look at bringing together 16 ministries and bringing it together digitally to kind of make people come together to remove the nuances that existed for the past 75 years, I'm sure there would be some challenges. But largely, I'm extremely, I would say, positive and extremely delighted and excited to see how this will get implemented. And I also have seen that in this journey that had started in 2021, there have been significant deliveries also that the Road Ministry and the Transport Ministry have been able to deliver. From the 2 lakh kilometers of roads, about 1.41 lakh kilometers of roads have also been delivered. So I'm excited, and I think if I have to name one challenge that might come in, is getting the 16 ministries to coordinate between each other, because that's something as even at the real estate sector, we have a challenge between having multiple ministries and multiple approvals needed to implement a single kind of project.
Thanks, Vinita. Yeah, the single window clearance is still a dream. I know. Darshan, what's your view on it?
Okay, so firstly, great to be here. Great kudos to the IMC team for setting this up. They always do a great job. So the way I see it is, it's a very, very important requirement for our country. The reason being, we have extremely efficient companies in the manufacturing sector, but their logistic costs of fuel, ports, pipelines, electricity are still some of the highest in the world. So actually, we're very efficient guys who work with a very inefficient surrounding around them. Our gas and electricity infrastructure, most companies are still saddled with monopolies. Our ports are the most expensive in the world to ship goods in and out. So ultimately, for our companies to be world-class and to be the best in the world, our infra and logistics has to be terribly efficient. And this is the first time that the government has identified coordinated infra development as the only way to bring down costs. For example, your cost of digging, if you're building a fiber network, a gas network, a water network, a cable network, your cost of digging and rebuilding the road is sometimes equal, if not more, than the cost of laying that network itself. So hopefully, if we can do this in a coordinated way, it's going to be an easy way to bring down these infrastructure costs. And when we bring it down, it will make it more viable. It's a lower threshold to actually make it economical. It sort of all works together. So, and I can tell you it's working. We're building gas pipelines. We are asked for detailed GIS data to be handed over to a central platform. So that is happening, and we can see it happening today. In terms of what's happening in the open plan with these ports being expensive, what the government of India has done through inland waterways, they have said at least national waterways, whoever's got any land on the waterfront, you can build your own port, your own jetty, no restriction. You don't have to go through a very long process of figuring out whether the government will give you a concession, whose land it is, do a tender, nothing. You build your own jetty, pay them a fee, whatever actual cargo is put through it, you just pay that much. And I think if taking this idea, if state governments utilize it as well and not restrict it only to the national waterway one that it currently is in and use it on all the state rivers, I think that itself will be another economic booster. So that will be another big game changer in the whole environment. So I think I'm quite enthused. And in order to make something successful, you first have to have the idea of it. So you figure out the challenges that will come through our way, which I'm sure we'll overcome.
Thanks, Darshan. Thanks. Actually, you answered part of my next question. So your group, my next question is first to you. Your group is known, for the past so many decades, it's a household name, but that's primarily in housing. What people don't know, many people don't know, is your investments in infrastructure and logistics and ports. So could you, and that's part of the Gati Shakti program, right? You're going to be a part and parcel of it. Could you give the audience a little brief on your investment portfolio in that and your plans for the future?
Yeah, sure. So for us, it was, we realized that there was a lot of demand for, different categories of infrastructure in India. And there was global demand for it, but there was always a gap between marrying what the West wanted and what really needed to happen to make things happen on the ground. So what we did is we created a big sort of an industrial platform, because you had all these companies who would come, and if they were a very big company, if they were a global giant, they would get a MOU signed with the Prime Minister. If they were just below a global giant, they would get an MOU signed with the Chief Minister, and so on and so forth. So you have these big statewide, Vibrant Gujarat, Magnetic Maharashtra, Invest UP, all these programs where a lot of MOUs get signed, but it wouldn't translate to actually investment on the ground. The success rate would be 10-15%. And then we started thinking, hey, why is that happening? What's the real gap? And suddenly the story we realized, without rambling on, is if a French company signs a MOU with the Maharashtra Chief Minister, they send a general manager from Paris, and that poor soul comes to Bombay, and they are granted land from MIDC, and they have to say, okay, now your land's been allotted, now start construction. And for them, it is one person talking French, one person talking Marathi, nothing really happens. And they get stuck, and they are sending letters to the Chief Minister with a photograph and the MOU saying, we are so excited, now please help us, not realizing that that's not the way the system works. So we said, okay, there's an opportunity here. And we created an industrial platform. And I'm proud to say that, and that one's 50-50 with Blackstone, that in 3 years, we have enabled 25 major companies, including Vestas' global wind manufacturing. We built start to finish their entire factory, which we leased to them for 15 years, but we built their spec factory start to finish in 11-12 months. And we became an enabler for them to actually come in and invest in India. We said, listen, till the factory doesn't switch on, route everything to us. Once it switches on, it's yours. We're only a landlord, and you move things forward. So we added some value there. In terms of the others, again, in the gas sector, we think that natural gas will still be needed for the next 20-30 years in India. Government's given it a big push. There's a huge monopoly issue in India with only GAIL being there, and it's very difficult for companies to directly import and source. So we created a terminal, and we created 1 or 2 strategic pipelines. We're building India's first cross-country pipeline, so connecting the Indian grid to the Bangladesh grid, which is being done by us, and will be ready sometime in the next 12 months. So there are some bits that we're doing there as well. And last but not the least, we've made a big play in data centers because, as they say, data is the new oil, and we've been doubling, tripling down on fiber and data center infrastructure and moving that fast ahead.
Oh, fantastic. I wish you all the very best for future plans. Binita, would you like to tell us something on what the Rustomji Group is planning in infra?
So I think we've largely been a residential player from the existence in the last 26 years. But now the way we're looking at it, and I would actually say kudos to Darshan to kind of, bring it out so well in terms of the opportunities that exist in technically for an international player to come into India, and the way how Greek and Latin tries to meet with Marathi in our country, but never really reaches its end. So we are seeing those opportunities as well. And at this moment, in the way we are looking at it, and not just data being the new oil, but data being the new future, as well as in terms of logistics and commercial being an important need, while the Gati Shakti is being implemented across the country, is the opportunity that we're looking at. So we are just about starting to get there. I don't think we are largely in the trajectory of infrastructure, but we are just about starting to get there.
Okay, wish you all the best for the future as well. So, I mean, though you have been part of the Godrej Group as well, I heard previously, so you will be able to answer my next question. Infra projects have had some terrible consequences in our industry. Many big promoters have gone bust. Big city projects have failed, and there have been huge gestation periods resulting in cost overruns, etc. What is the reason for this? Is it the lack of community? That's what the essence of Gati Shakti is all about, close cohesion between everyone. Or what is the real reason for this?
I think traditionally, we as a country tried to plan, but we never really planned well. And while we look at the West, we forgot to look at the East, where the Japs spend a lot of time planning and then implementing. So we are a little confused as far as that is concerned in the way we kind of look at our projects in this country. But I will say this to you, that traditionally, and the reason why most infrastructure projects have not really reached its end is because the multiple levels of approval that you need, even to build a road, is something that has been a large lacuna. Right from planning to environment to one fine day, the Supreme Court coming and saying that you cannot cut any more trees because there's a tree in the middle of your road, or to the extent to not have the support locally while building a road or a pipeline or laying a railway track has been a reason for delay in projects. I think with the way the country is poised, and in the last 5 to 10 years with the new government coming in and the way they have literally gone and bulldozed and got all the roads built and all the networks updated in terms of connectivity, those problems are now changing. And you may experience a bad implementation and a bad result, but if you don't learn from it, you will never really grow from it. So with the way the government is today, I'm actually very pleasantly surprised to see the way they are implementing their learnings in their new projects. So the way people used to implement roads earlier, you really can't do that today. And there's a very different way of road implementation and the network of roads that are planned today. Earlier, they used to plan it without assuming whether the road had a mountain or they had a forest or they had, for that matter, a field on it. Today, they are really planning it, looking at some of these points into consideration. So that is a big change that you're seeing in projects today. And I think the Gati Shakti platform that the Honorable Prime Minister has launched is in a way trying to bring coordinated efforts to put out the entire environment ministry approval challenges, the challenges that come from the urban ministry in terms of getting your road permissions, in terms of land acquisitions and so on and so forth. So this will bring a largest change in building that network of roads and infrastructure. So that is my takeaway as far as delays in projects are concerned.
Thanks, Vinita. Thank you for that input. Well brought out. Darshan, over to you. You have a little bit more experience in these matters, so you'll be anxious to hear your views on that.
Yeah, I'd start off by saying most of the failure starts with mindset. So the mindset in our country is warped at many levels. Firstly, what happens is there is no cooperation or collaboration approach. When the government gives you an infrastructure to develop as a private sector, the moment they sign a piece of paper, so much changes in time. Anything to change that piece of paper is considered corruption. So very, very difficult, right? So there's no mindset of a collaborative approach saying, hey, there are going to be 10 problems along the way. We'll solve those problems, but that actually means that some solutions have to be found and some difficulties have to be overcome. So that's one of the big reasons why this becomes a challenge. Everything becomes legally tenuous. Second thing is that when you're building infrastructure, and if it's a public utility that affects people, there's the two issues. One is NIMBY, not in my backyard. And the other problem is that people want a sea-link, but they don't want it to block their view if they are sea-facing. So they want to file PILs and block things. So, it goes either ways. It's a not in my backyard approach. And second is where people actually feel entitled that, hey, a road is coming. How do I become the last person giving up my land so I get the highest price, right? So these formulas have to be thought through and won over and done. So that itself is there. But, there's a mindset problem where we actually don't believe in the national pride piece of it, saying, hey, this is an infrastructure that's developing our country and improving our country. That's how a democracy works. So we have to live with that reality. But in highways, I'll tell you where the biggest learning is. So we used to have a lot of these toll, a company had to bid for a highway. They had to estimate the toll, and then they were awarded the road project. They had to build it in their own money, and whatever came. Suddenly they realized that all the road contractors have gone bankrupt. So they went through a period, all the road contractors had gone bankrupt. This is between 2011 and 2015. 2015, Mr. Gadkari got sick of it and he said, no, I'm canceling all of these. Everybody will be a government contract only. So government will award the contracts. And once the traffic is come on the road, we will remonetize that by discounting the receivable and we'll close the story. So that's what they've done. They keep getting a set of roads, they put it into a package, discount the receivables, putting into a package, discount the receivables. I think today it's like, exceeding 25,000 crores a year that's coming in receivables itself from road tolls. So that works out as a formula for them. So I think with many of these projects, it seems like it'll end up being government contracts rather than PPPs, where a lot of the risk is taken out of the way. And once that's done, there's enough global capital there to monetize it. So I think we'll have to figure out and bucket it correctly, what goes into a government risk portion and what goes into a, hey, this is suitable for PPP. Like you build the airport and then you PPP it out to make it world-class or improve it or get minimum traffic and then do it. So there are many formulas. So I think this uncertainty during construction for all the reasons, right, wrong, ugly, I think for many of these infrastructures, government will have to take the risk and then we have to monetize.
Thanks, Ashwin. Yeah, actually, it's an eye opener that all these restrictions have come so far. Imagine if these hurdles weren't there, where would our country be today? Honestly, and I think the government has woken up to those ground realities and is taking the right steps finally. So, Vinita, over to you. India is probably the second, not probably, is the second largest populated country. Probably we are ahead of China on that. Is it our greatest strength or our greatest weakness?
I think, Alexis, I must say that your questions are really well thought of and very well crafted, and especially this one. I think there are two sides to every coin, and that's been a saying that has lasted across times. But my personal feeling, while our country's population is a extremely large number on a global footprint, I think the last 2.5, 3 years of the pandemic have really gone ahead and proven to the world that our population in a very large way is a positive for us. Because our domestic consumption and domestic demand is one of the major reasons why globally people had challenges with lockdowns and in terms of consumption not being up to the mark, and dependency of consumption from either exports or from tourism and multiple different industries across their individual countries caused a problem for them. But because India's population was so large, we were able to sustain this pandemic without having too much of an economic hit. What really worked for China to become a superpower was the population, to the right use of their population. And also the fact is that they use their population to create economies of scale, which no country today can replicate. If you see the way on account of China slowing down its manufacturing, the effect of inflation globally, and in a very large way in terms of cost of materials available even in our country. If you look at the basic cost of, laptops, in terms of chips in your cars or even your cell phones, they've all gone up because China has slowed down its manufacturing. And the biggest thing that worked for China is, one, the government policy, two, their population for availability of labor. And I think India is actually poised at the right moment today with multiple schemes and the government being open to push this country towards a growth and reaching a 5 trillion economy, our population plays a very, very large role, and our population definitely is a strength towards that. But every strength comes with its weakness, and every strength can only be achieved if you have the right mindset, like Darshan says, to exercise it. So unless our government really does not make the right use of this population, it is genuinely going to be a big challenge for us in times to come, because if we don't really use this for growth, it will become a derailment in our GDP and in our consumption base. So yeah.
Thanks, Vinita. That was really brilliant. Very, very good idea. It can be our greatest strength. It is our greatest strength, but can be our greatest hurdle if not handled properly. Well put. Darshan, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so, I think it will entirely depend on education. So whether we can skill, whether we can specialize, because the question is, how much employment do we get, how much underemployment do we get, and how much unemployment that we'll get. So there is massive pressure on fantastic, on basically skilling and educating people, and really making them contributors to economic growth rather than people who are dependent on handouts. And the more we take care of that, the more happens. I've got a very interesting point on this. What makes the biggest impact to any economy? And I was fortunate to meet Bill Gates in the second half of last year, and over dinner I asked him, I said, hey, what's the single biggest change that you've seen anywhere in the world, or the impact of the single biggest change? And he said, Darshan, the impact is in China, and the impact is taking care of malnutrition below the age of 5. And he said, taking care of between pregnancy and malnutrition till the age of 5 impacts the entire IQ, physical capability, strength of the child through their life. And he said, all along, the Chinese conquered that situation back in the 80s. And that's why today their population in such large numbers is both bright and hardworking and physically capable. And today they are taller, today they are stronger, today they everything. And we all thought it was genetics, that hey, Chinese are short or Chinese are like this. Actually, it was malnutrition that was out of the way. So while we put education as front and center, I think ensuring that pregnancy to age 5 of every child in our country is taken care of could actually be one of the single biggest factors of our success over the next 20 years.
Thanks, Darshan. Yeah, that's a very important point. Also, the single child policy of China may have slowed down things a bit for them in the population spectrum. And feeding our population is going to be the next, it's going to be a big challenge in time to come, with more and more urban development coming in. So we come to our last question. Vinita, ideate, the very theme of this conclave. What is the single biggest thing, according to you, that can change India's destiny?
So as cliche as it may sound, and this is a youth conference, but I will say the youth of India is the only thing that can change India's destiny. Believe me, education has been something which has been a passion for me. While I did join real estate with the family and later on in years, my first stint was setting up the business school. And that was something that was very close to me and is still very close to me. I truly believe if you can give today's youth the right education, they will coin the future of this country, which would be a future which no economist and no country can predict. Because the way the youth today looks at things, if you see your startups and if you see your new age technology that is coming out, it is coming out from youth who are looking at a problem in their daily lives and they are solving it. Whoever knew that a lockdown would result in Swiggy's and Zomato's of the world coming in, while I don't think mentioning them post the IPO is the right thing. But those are all innovations that came out. And those are all conveniences that have come out because the youth went out and thought of solving that problem and coding it. And I've seen education change over the years from, when every one of us were in school, in college, to today, where coding is really a basic requirement for anyone while you're in school, and people are taking that initiative and kind of, learning and mastering that. So I genuinely think it's the youth of India that can change tomorrow. And I seriously think that bringing in IB, bringing in ICSE, bringing in various formats which work towards building your child and building the youth, rather than giving them a textbook and saying, this is what history was, please learn the name of the kings and the name of the leaders that fought our freedom and got you to where you are today, is something that is genuinely available for a certain sector of people. But I think that should be genuinely the way in which you develop kids. A lot of your speakers that are there today on the forum, like one of them dropped out of school very early just to build an environment company. That is because he thought that he was making a change and that was more important than the way he was being educated. But those are the path-breaking education systems that I think should come in to develop the youth of today. And they are the ones that are really going to take this country to the future. And they have the ability to be creative. With time, what happens is everyone becomes non-creative in the way they think and in the way they look at future. But these people definitely are the future of tomorrow, and they are the ones that will look at India in a very different way.
Thanks, Vinita. Yeah, a strong foundation, and the youth, giving the youth a strong foundation to build a better India tomorrow. Darshan, what's your view on this?
Yeah, I think Vinita is absolutely right. It's about having the mindset to not accept the status quo, to overcome any, to problem solve, overcome any difficulty and challenge that you have. And every entrepreneur has to be an optimist, otherwise you can't be an entrepreneur. It would be very, very difficult to be an entrepreneur if you're not an optimist. And I am very, very optimistic about the future of India. I'm optimistic about big business and its ability to still be hungry and grow. So if you see the Reliances of the world still willing to risk everything and put in $100 billion into technology and say, I'm going to create a big startup and spend 100 billion of my money and put it in, and see it at the smallest scale where people are willing to quit school, quit college, quit IIT, quit wherever, and say, I believe in this idea and doing it. So I think aspirationally, we have hunger and brilliance at all ends of the spectrum. And I think that itself gives me sufficient comfort that even if not everybody has the right mindset, enough people will pull things along and will do very well. I don't, and we will chart our own story. I don't think the China story is right, or the US story is perfect for us, or the Singapore story is great for us. But either way, we'll chart our own story, and I think it'll be a brilliant one.
Thanks, yeah, Darshan. Thanks a lot for that. I think the youth has really proved thinking out of the box. They've got guts to give it all up and take a gamble. And I think hats off to them. And we have had so many unicorns in the pandemic, it's not even funny anymore that way. So thank you, Vinita and Darshan. It was a pleasure and honor being with you on this panel and to get your views. Bhavna, over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Firstly, Mr. Zirkis Master, for moderating it so wonderfully, the President of the Association of Multimodal Transport Operators of India. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we are all connected virtually, but let's applaud him with a huge round of applause and appreciate him today. Also, we'd like to humbly thank both our panelists. First up, Ms. Vinita Dalal, founder and managing partner, MTK Capital, head of fundraising, Rustomjee Group. Thank you so much, Ms. Dalal, for joining us today. Let's give her as well a huge round of applause for all the anecdotes of wisdom she shared today. And of course, Mr. Darshan Hiranandani, Group Director, Hiranandani Group, for all the wisdom he shared and all the plans ahead. Thank you, Mr. Hiranandani, for that. So ladies and gentlemen, with that round of applause for all our leaders today, it is time for me to move ahead with our student narrations. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank all our eminent panelists and thank you so much for joining us today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our student narrations on our theme, I just request our students to ensure that while narrating, you have to stick 2 minutes only. I'm going to be timing you all one by one. And if you see my face popping up, that means your time is up. Time is the biggest asset, and I expect our leaders, which is the youth of India, who are the leaders for tomorrow, to please respect the time of everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, first up, I'd like to invite on the forum Ms. Bhavika Korjani from the Modi University of Science and Technology, Rajasthan. Ms. Bhavika, your 2 minutes starts now.
Industrial growth of a country cannot happen in silos. So on 13th of October 2021, the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, has launched Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti National Master Plan, heralding a new chapter in governance. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bhavika Korjani from Modi University of Science and Technology, Sikar, Rajasthan. Today's topic of discussion is Gati Shakti Yojana. With this plan, the Government of India aims to introduce and improve the infrastructure connectivity projects of India by connecting 16 ministries through a digital platform. It is driven by 7 engines: roads, railways, airports, waterways, mass transportation, and logistic infrastructure to put the economy in unison. To successfully achieve this aim, the Government of India should connect with its neighbors and consult with them to gauge the connectivity strategies and ideas. India should also cooperate with the global players like World Bank and Asian Development Bank, who are keen to support the Indo-Pacific and economic dimension. According to the economic survey, 2019-20, the India should invest around $1.5 trillion on infrastructure to be a $5 trillion economy by 2025. And according to the RBI estimates, the India's economic multiplier should be between 2.5 to 3.5, which means that every rupee spent by the government on infrastructure should be increasing the GDP by rupees 2.5 to 3.5. On the launch day, PM Modi said that the government, this Gati Shakti plan will definitely reduce the logistic cost and which will result in the betterment of the local industries. And no one can deny with that fact this Gati Shakti plan is a game changer for India's growth and prosperity, because the logistic and supply chain cost is reduced and has a GDP of around 12%, which is much more higher than the global averages of 8%. To summarize my point, I would like to say that the Gati Shakti has hit the bullseye with this commendable and time-relevant vision of encouraging the holistic infrastructure growth. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Kochani, for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she did respect the time of 2 minutes, and we'd like to applaud her for the same and all her views she brought about. Next up, Ms. Snigdha Dubey, Nirma University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Greetings to one and all. I'm Snigdha Dubey from Nirma University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. India and infrastructure have been going a long way since 2014. However, it's evident that our infrastructure is yet to reach its best. One of the major reasons for this is the lack of communication among ministries and departments. I'm sure most of us may have witnessed that a newly built roadway is broken down by some other department for their work and then rebuilt all over again. To resolve such issues, the legislature has designed a master plan, PM Gati Shakti program. Launched by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, this program aims to include 16 ministries for integrated planning and implementation of infrastructure projects. It leverages a dynamic geographical information system-based enterprise resource planning platform, wherein data on specific action plan of all ministries will be incorporated within a comprehensive database. However, an infrastructure development of this level requires investments at large scale. That's where National Infrastructure Pipeline comes in. Focused on timely completion and with government support, NIP partnered with Gati Shakti will ensure a new approach towards development. Gati Shakti also has plans to integrate postal and railway network and establish a multimodal connectivity between urban transport and railway station. This program offers high stakes when it comes to infrastructural development, and if successfully implemented, can make a huge difference in everyday life. As a proud citizen of this diverse nation, I can't wait to see and experience the benefits this program gives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd really like to thank Ms. Dubey for respecting the time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to move ahead to our next person, Mr. Chaviyush Kusumakar from the Netaji Subhash University of Technology, Dwarka, Delhi. Well, your 2 minutes starts now.
Good afternoon to all present here. I'm Chaviyush Kusumakar representing Netaji Subhash University of Technology, Delhi. 75 years of persevering efforts of business and trade fraternity today made India a strong contender among the global economic powers. But just like a weak circulatory system in a child affects the stunted growth of the body, in a similar way, the inefficient and dilapidated infrastructure, especially transport system, affects and hampers the development of growth and business avenues in the nation. Gati Shakti Master Plan proposes a maneuver to strengthen this circulatory system of the nation. I have a question for you. How many of us know about the Hathras has a production unit of hing, or Chalesa has perfume production units, or Dharakot from Odisha has the production unit for the steel, the glass beads? For most of us, the answer for the question is no. And it shows how disconnected these local industries are from the mainstream trade. And just forget about the global outreach. There are thousands of such small towns and billions of such industries and businesses with little or no conjunction with the national trade machinery. Mission Gati Shakti can provide multimodal connectivity to these nucleation sites of India's economic firepower with economic hubs, dedicated freight corridors, uninterrupted power supply, and efficient transport system with real-time coordination using special planning tools by ISRO. There is a small yet very powerful proverb: many a little makes a missile. Mission Gati Shakti should focus on these small industrial power hubs to strengthen the India and future and lead the nation, lead the globe in 21st century. And this is I, Chaviyush, would ideate for India at 100. Thank you.
Thank you. Right on time, I must say. Congratulations on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with thoughts going ahead, let's welcome Ms. Jayashree Vamalai from the SIES College of Management, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Ms. Jayashree, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you, Bhavna. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jayashree Vamalai representing SIES College of Management Studies, Nerul. Gati, the Hindi word for speed, aims to boost the economic growth, that is Shakti, through infrastructure building, which is the key to a nation's further development. A national master plan for multimodal connectivity. It aims to reduce the transportation time and cost of logistics, boosting the export competitiveness, along with improving industrial productivity, with easier interconnectivity between different mediums of transport, such as Bharatmala, Sagarmala, dry land ports, and Udan. We call it PM Gati Shakti, with which India can achieve the economies of scale by keeping in mind the future resilience and maintainability of the infrastructure projects being developed to have the optimum utility for years to come, which would result in a balanced regional development that could lead the growth of multiple industrial clusters like textile clusters, defense corridors, electronic parks, etc., sprouting across India. With the help of PM Gati Shakti, it would be expanded to compete on a global scale. To ensure this, there are some initiatives that have been kept on priority to speed up the programs and increase the opportunities for Indian businesses, like bringing 16 ministries under the same umbrella and ensuring that there is cooperation and coordination of the state and local governments, which would provide an effective mechanism for monitoring the public sector infrastructure projects. With the advancement in the infrastructure, it would bring in investment in the country from all over the world, which would lead to economic growth of the country. The project not only contributes immediately to the demand for labor and construction materials, but also the second order effects with the improved connectivity and holistic development of the nation. As of today, India is highly dependent on fossil fuels, and for a major part, it is dependent on other nations, which in turn directly or indirectly influences India's geopolitics. I would like to see the nation become energy independent. India's energy needs keep on growing day by day, and so is the dependency. To address this, we need a systematic roadmap where the nation could be energy independent. I would like to conclude by saying that the Gati Shakti plan aims to achieve synchronous decision making to create a world-class, seamless, multimodal transport network. On the back of it, India would be transformed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jayashree, for respecting our time and giving your thoughts ahead. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for me to now call upon Ms. Anukumari Seth Gyani Ram, Bandesar Podar College, Navalgarh, Rajasthan, to join us. Anu, over to you.
Yes, ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, and your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anu Kumari from St. Kaniram Banstar Podar College, Navalgarh. Today, I'm here to share my views on Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the beginning of Gati Shakti. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is an initiative of Government of India launched on 12 March 2021 to celebrate 75 glorious years of progressive India and its great achievement. The Mahotsav is dedicated to the people of India who hold with them the power to enable Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's vision of activating a new India fueled by the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. So, on our 75th Independence Day, PM Modi announced that the government will launch PM Gati Shakti Master Plan for developing holistic infrastructure. So, basically, Gati Shakti is a digital platform that will bring 16 ministries of government, including railways and roadways, together for integrated and coordinated infrastructure development projects. Under this plan, the ongoing scheme of various ministries will also be incorporated, like Bharatmala project, Sagarmala project, and Udan scheme. Not only this, the plan will also cover development of economic zones such as pharmaceutical cluster, textile cluster, industrial cluster, and 2 new defense corridors, one in Tamil Nadu and one in Uttar Pradesh. So I can proudly say that we Indians have marveled in the field of science and technology, medicine, healthcare, and agriculture. Infrastructure development is the last link joining all the sectors together, and I firmly believe that infrastructure development will play an important role in India's aim to become a 5 trillion economy. That's all from my side. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anu, for keeping on the time and sharing your views ahead. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for me to move ahead and call up Mr. Mohammed Yassin from the S.P. Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Mr. Yassin, your time starts now.
Former US President John F. Kennedy once famously said, American roads are not good because America is rich, but America is rich because American roads are good. Our own Gati Shakti National Master Plan is to develop not just the roads, but the overall infra in the country. This plan can have a gigantic multiplier effect in the economy, estimated up to 2.5 times of the investments. The key to success is multimodal connectivity at scale with all stakeholders coming together digitally. I believe 3 aspects must be prioritized. First, the environmental effects. As per Niti Aayog reports, by 2050, India can save around 3 lakh crore rupees worth of fuel and reduce 10 gigatons of CO2 with sustainable practices. For example, Indian Green Building Council guidelines could be made mandatory for infra development. Second, the social effects. Employment opportunities and last mile connectivity could improve and create multiple clusters throughout India, improving quality of life and financial inclusion across board. For this, land acquisition is critical. Reclaiming degraded and polluted lands with proper identification using GIS tech could be the priority. This could eliminate long-drawn litigations and disputes with local communities. Third, the fiscal effect. That is to reduce Indian logistics cost at par with developed economies. As per RBI's latest paper, it's a great sign that growth rate in credit offtake for infra has increased closer to pre-COVID times. But there is an inequitable credit flux between segments such as roads and ports. A more equitable growth by including private players could be a balanced impetus. This will upgrade our industries with opportunities for new ventures as well. By the centennial independence year, I'd like to see my country achieve the goal of $30 trillion sustainable economy by solving this one problem. India currently moves almost 65% of the goods through roads in comparison to developed economies that move less than 30%. With dedicated freight corridors connecting all the corners, Indian railways and roads will be decongested. That will help us. Yes, that will help us reach the goal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Yassin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our final student citation for this particular topic. We are going to be requesting Ms. Ashisha Shivu from the St. Thomas College, Palai, Kerala. Well, your time starts now. Could we request our lady to please join us? Yes, could we please request you to unmute yourself?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Your time starts now. Thank you.
Honorable people on the jury panel, other dignitaries, fellow participants, and my dear friends, a pleasant good evening all. On behalf of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, our government recently announced PM Gedi Shakti. The Hindi word Gedi Shakti, which is derived from two Hindi words, Gedi and Shakti, meaning speed and power. To get the mission going on, we need a centralized portal or a unified portal that needs to be set up, giving priority to speedy development of modern infrastructure. Government need to focus both on rural and urban sector. So rather than keeping their intention constant, and they need to divert their focus from developing, rather than from developing modern sectors or urban sectors, they need to develop their rural sector. So government must give significance to construction sector for improvements in modern infrastructure. And through this digital platform, we can create world-class infrastructure. And this initiative will surely increase opportunities for Indian business, as government can reduce the rate of interest in investment, can reduce rate of interest in business sector, and as a result, they can increase their investment. So this can definitely be a game changer for India's growth and prosperity, because this has a direct impact on export, and this export will have can be increased as the warehousing facilities or storage facilities will be increased, because this will give an incentive to producers and manufacturers.
So apologies, there was a network issue, and in interest of time, we would have to cut her session, but thank you for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to move ahead with our second session, the Indian startup Unicorn to Unicorn. What an incredible theme this is. Well, India today has the third largest ecosystem after USA and China, and the Startup India campaign is a revolutionary initiative that has rolled out several programs with prime objective to support entrepreneurs and build a robust startup ecosystem. Well, in this respect, it's my honor to first up welcome our moderator, Ms. Yash Chandan, founder, BioPapro Private Limited. Mr. Yash, an impeccable blend of striking business instincts at the young age of 22, has co-founded two thriving startup ventures and successfully running a steel trading firm, Pearls Metals Private Limited in Mumbai. Well, having founded BioPapro in 2019 to cater to the European markets for sustainable products made from India, was founded to provide for a one-stop solution for manufacturing of the wooden cutlery, sugarcane-based paper cups and paper straws that will be the end of the use of plastic in the day-to-day meals. Well, what a great initiative, and thank you so much, Yash, for being the moderator for today. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Babu.
With this, I'd also like to welcome our esteemed panelists. First up, Ms. Astha Grover, heads Startup India in West India. Ms. Astha heads the Startup India, and she's been the founding member of the team and has seen the ecosystem grow to become the third largest in the world today. The Startup India Hub was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister on 16th of January 2016 and is hosted under in West India. The Hub's mandate is to serve a single point of contact for the entire startup ecosystem and enable exchange of knowledge and provide access to funding. We'd really like to humbly thank her. She's somebody who's done her MBA in finance from the SP Jain College of Mumbai and graduation from the CBS College of Business Studies, Delhi University, and has been a CBSE topper as well. So thank you so much, Ms. Grover, for joining us.
Thank you, Bhavna.
Thank you. Also welcoming on board would be Mr. Sanjay Mehta, founder and partner, 100x.vc. Mr. Mehta in 2020 got inducted into the Hall of Fame for his contribution in the startup investment. He's somebody who's a technology evangelist and an entrepreneur turned VC. He's also been with TIE, a board member for over 3 years before founding his company, and he's been a part of the reality show Pitch Right Season 1 and Season 2, in which the founders pitched their ideas for 45 seconds in BSE Elevator. Currently, he's a part of the first 20 episodes of the Winning Pitch series on Leaders of Tomorrow by ET Now TV channel. Great to have you on the platform, Mr. Mehta. Thank you for joining us.
Hello all. Thank you.
Thank you. With this, ladies and gentlemen, Yash, over to you to take forth with your panel.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. Thank you so much, Astha ma'am and Sanjay sir, for being here with us. And I'm my personal fan for you both of you guys. Thank you for joining. I'm a very young founder of BioPapro. We manufacture alternatives to single-use plastic products. And we started off this company just 3 years back. It started off with 7 people, and now we're a team of 250 people. And I'm also registered with Startup India, so I know how much incentives I've been receiving from the government. So thank you so much for that as well. Now, coming to Sanjay sir, I would first request you to say, what's your success mantra? What is it that makes you such a great investor, being the only investor in 4 unicorns of India itself?
I've been lucky. That's what I can say across. Nothing more. I think Indian entrepreneurs are doing great and gives us a great opportunity to invest into early stage companies, and have been fortunate and lucky to be part of their journey.
That's right. So Asta ma'am, just to ask, few years back, even a single unicorn was big news. Now we have more than 100+ unicorns in India. What do you think has led to this paradigm shift in India?
Thanks, Yash. Hi, Sanjay. Hi to all the students, entrepreneurs, startups who joined us today. I think it's just a cultural change, I would say, right? Startups were existing back from 2000s. The ones who started early struggled a little to fight with their parents, to fight with their spouses, to fight with their families, to leave a job and start on their own. However, a decade after that, the mindset completely changed. Starting up became a lot more cooler. People were more pro towards taking risk. People were okay with leaving their high-paying jobs, and that's how I think the cultural and the mindset changed. Right, back in the days. If there was a founder, right, and if he was working in a startup, he would have difficulty convincing his parents, convincing his family, convincing his spouse's parent to sort of, ask the girl's hand as well. However, I think with the term unicorn, right, why unicorns are getting so famous is because they're creating wealth so rapidly. If you look at the examples of Infosys, TCS, the biggest MNCs, it took them 30-40 years to hit their $1 billion revenue. While for a unicorn, it's been 3 years, 5 years, 7 years where they're hitting their $1 billion valuation. And someone as fast as a Mensa has done it in 6 months, to someone as Slack has done it in less than an year. So look at the pace at which the wealth is being created. Look at the time at which, it's just simply not just halved, but rapidly decreased, in which the earlier corporates were, hitting the valuation. Look at the disruption which they're bringing to the market. Today, when a Tata wants to enter a grocery business, it's not starting on its own. It's working with someone like a Big Basket. If Reliance is trying to enter the delivery business, it's picking up someone like a Dunzo, right? Even the big corporates today are partnering with the existing startups for the fact that they're more agile and they've already disrupted the market. In my sense, if you look at 10 years from past to where we are right now, right? Let me share some examples with you. Earlier, we used to wave our hands on the street to stop an auto. Thankfully, today we have an Ola and an Uber at the click of a button. Earlier, we used to go to tuitions and we're always late, reaching the tuition center. Sometimes they were far, sometimes we could not find the right conveyance. Today, you don't need to go anywhere thanks to Byju's on Academy. Tuition is brought to you at your home, and not just tuitions, but courses. Earlier, there were waiting lines outside restaurants, especially Sundays. I think I remember waiting and putting my name in the wait list in the restaurant. But now you can just book beforehand or eat the comfort at your home thanks to Zomato and Swiggy. If you look at it, what's the common trend that has been brought about? It's the name of a startup that has brought about these consumer changes. It's not any big company. It's not a Fortune 500 company. It's not an MNC. If we are breathing, consuming, adapting, using startups day in and day out, I think that's what has led to this paradigm shift and the cultural change where starting up is a lot more acceptable and a lot more cooler right now. And that's why so many young minds, so many young entrepreneurs are not afraid and are pacing towards becoming unicorns. I'll end here in the interest of time.
Thank you so much, Asta ma'am. That really is true. We all have been really motivated by the help of the government of India, and the support which we have been receiving, especially in the investments, and seeing the growth that all the youth have now been able to take that first step, which we were always scared of, breaking the barrier of doing the next big thing. Sanjay sir, what do you think has led to this paradigm shift? What do you think is making India having 100+ unicorns now?
When I used to go to colleges and meet students and the faculties and the dean over there in the colleges would tell me saying that you've got 100% placement, which means most of the guys are getting into jobs. Now they pride themselves, okay, we have an incubator, we have a startup, cell, we have got an e-cell guys. So things have changed. Things have changed for better. So I think people used to take pride in the education sector about placements. Now they are taking pride about entrepreneurship. I anecdotally, if I have to tell an incident, I met a student kind of stuff. I would like to become an entrepreneur. Like, क्या हो गया भाई, entrepreneur क्यों बनना? बोले टीचर ने बोला. Like, क्या teacher inspired you kind of stuff? बोले नहीं, you failed into your exam, you can't get any job anywhere, so you will become an entrepreneur. So this was the whole mindset, right? So now it has changed. I think we are doing it for better. There are some structural opportunities which has been created. Like, for example, there are fundamental innovations. Like, let's say if GPS would not have been there as a technology, we would not have seen Swiggy or Ola, right? The GPS created the whole market, and entrepreneurs built over GPS technology kind of stuff. Then you see, consumer behavior change, which is happening across. So for example, in COVID times, we saw edtech companies grow rapidly because now learning online became really valuable. Then there are economic impetus, right? For example, EV market. Today, government is helping with subsidies, building infrastructure. They want to promote EV. So suddenly there is economic impetus. So a lot of this infrastructure changes, like how India Stack helped across to build across the complete UPI rails, which are changing everything in terms of the payment infrastructure. So I think we are building those foundational changes at the ground level, and we are poised to maybe add another 100 unicorns by 2025. So I'm very bullish. India is unstoppable, and with the mindset change at the ground level, where we have got so many incubators, Atal incubation centers, which has been opened across the government, which is seeding at the engineering level, at the ground level with colleges, is phenomenal. So I think we have got a great run ahead with the startup story.
True, sir. Thank you so much, sir. That was really insightful. Asta ma'am, what are the new measures and initiatives we should keep an eye on? How government has helped with building these 100+ unicorns? What should the young students keep an eye on? Where should we constantly look at to be aware about the new policies, new initiatives that have been taken?
And a good question. I think one, I'll probably start with the fact that the focus for anyone who's starting up should not be one on being blinded by becoming a unicorn and attaining that valuation, but rather should be on becoming, on having a stable, sustainable business model that will last long. Second, most often that not everyone looks at funding, right? Looking at angel investors, looking at VC funding, and trying to get the money to help them build. in all likelihood, there has been an increase of more than 10x in the funding pool available in India for the entrepreneurs over the last few years. What has brought that paradigm shift is basically the economic trends, basically the power of the startups, what they're adding to. But what you really need apart from funding is your business model and the right mentor to guide you. So what we did realize that, when we started Startup India, there are incentives for startups, for student entrepreneurs. We have started funding incubators, and through incubators, you can look at the seed funding support, which is the early stage startup seed capital, up to 20 lakh of grants or up to 50 lakh of a convertible debt. So if you're in your early stage, which is the risk capital where usually investors also don't invest in, we felt that we as a government should be the ones taking this risk and helping entrepreneurs. So the idea is to help more than 3,000 entrepreneurs in the next 3 years through the seed funding support. A very important pillar of this ecosystem is the mentors, right? And like Sanjay, who's been investing and mentoring people, getting the access of these mentors to the right startups, people who are in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, or people who are from the premier institutes, thankfully have their alum network, thankfully have people to reach out to. But what about the 45% of the entrepreneurs who are coming from smaller cities and towns today and are building the new India? So with that in mind, we are coming up with AI-based mentorship portal. It will soon be inaugurated by our Commerce and Industry Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, sometimes as soon as early July. But the idea is to provide you domain knowledge, functional knowledge, or any sort of help you need, basis your industry, basis your preference, and an intelligent matchmaking tool will come up and guide you with who would be the right mentor with which you can connect. So towards July, we are looking to open the call for mentors on a pro bono basis through this platform, and 2 to 3 months after that, we will open it up for the startups as well. So this will enable taking the mentors to the right set of startups as well. The third, I think what we're focusing a lot this year is that we realized that startups in India are building for the world as well. So we are showcasing the Indian innovations to global platforms across. We've recently concluded Viva Tech, which is the largest startup festival in Europe held in Paris, along with our partners in Niti Aayog, Mighty Startup Hub, and the Embassy of India in Paris, where we are taking, we gave opportunity to more than 30 plus startups, showcase the best of the Indian innovations, and open opportunities for them to work with corporates, for them to get investments from outside as well. A lot many roadshows and a lot many startup festivals where we will be taking startups abroad on a partly sponsored trip to highlight the best of the Indian innovations. To festivals like Slash, Web Summit are in the pipeline as well. So some of these recent initiatives are there, apart from the existing which continue to happen with respect to patent support, self-certification, fund of funds for growth state startups, among many others.
Thank you so much, Astha. We are really looking forward for the AI startup next month once it releases. It's going to help a lot of us. Sanjay, so which, as per you, is the sector to watch out for in the coming 2 years? Where do you see the next batch of Sunicons graduating?
I think India is a fertile ground. I mean, I always tell entrepreneurs, आँख बंद करके कहाँ भी पत्थर फेंको, एक problem मिलेगा. India is the land of opportunity, right? You've got so many problems to solve. Like you mentioned, I never knew about your company and what you do. It's a great story which everyone is building across, and definitely, if you have to basket startups, then you can look at fintech still continuing to rule that roost in terms of trying to create across opportunities in the payment space, credit space, investment space. So fintech is a big opportunity. Then comes the emerging one, I would say, across is agri-tech, which we are seeing very, very closely kind of stuff, how the new farmer is getting shaped across, how the the whole farming stories being built across, and agri plus fintech startups have started emerging across. So those are the newer ones. Then Web3 and crypto side things are already happening and booming in that sense. We are seeing good amount of opportunities, continued opportunities in the SaaS, deep tech, story which is there. So I think more or less, if you see across the sectors, it remains the same. The new addition, I would say, across is space. A lot of new space startups have started emerging across. People are taking those kind of bets. Renewables, sustainability startups have emerged across. We were not really, the momentum was not there in the clean tech side. Now clean tech has started to pick up with so much thrust coming from various. So you are now seeing dedicated funds in the sustainability clean tech side of it. So I think overall things are, I've seen a lot of the peddling of bad news about saying the market downturn, valuation corrections and stuff. I don't see that really being into midst of it. There are some challenges which are because the basic business fundamentals were not there. But overall, if you look into it, India stories continue to build. We will see continued momentum. There is enough and more capital which has raised in the last 2 to 3 years in the venture capital space. So a lot of deployment. In fact, I just recently gave an interview. So we are at an accelerated pace at 100x, right? We increased our check size from 25 lakhs to 1.25 crore. We are investing 100 startups this year, deploying 125 crore. So I think opportunities will continue to build. I don't see, Yash, any challenges as such. All thanks to the kind of foundation which we have built for internal consumption. Previously, there was a fancy between all of the VCs saying that only startups which are serving global customers used to get a lot of attention, and truly so. But now Bharat startups, look at ShareChat, right? It's a Bharat product. Amazing success which it has built across. So a lot of those D2C brands which are getting built homegrown in India, security products which are getting built in India. We invested in a company called Bugbase, which is a bug bounty program, young kids, dropouts. I mean, you look at them and the way they build the whole platform coming out of India and trying to secure all the online businesses. It's amazing the way student entrepreneurs are building. I mean, we invested in school dropout, right? I mean, college dropouts. So that's how successes are happening.
That's true, Sanjay. So there are a lot of opportunities in India, and like you rightly said, every problem has a solution. There is a solution, and that's an opportunity that we have as founders that we can go for. Thank you so much, sir. Again, Asa ma'am, what do you feel is on the participation of women, as a lot of unicorns are led by females, and any advice specific to the community?
If I give you the numbers from the 70,000 startups that we have, less than half, about 47% do report at least one women director. And if I look at only women co-founders, then also there's a good healthy representation for about 5 to 7% that are only run by an all women team, right? So I do see the numbers coming up the curve. I think somewhere it's, women are just bound to be good managers. They are engraved to be good homemakers. They are managing their families, they're managing their houses, they're managing their businesses, they're managing their kids. I think somewhere the art of managing comes naturally to them. It's just about the perception change which has to be brought about in the society that yes, women can work along as well, and they need the right support for this. Because somewhere deep there, I think they still ask about questions. How will you manage work with, with the married life? How will you manage work with your family life and things like that? And that's where we see that the investments are also skewed a lot towards businesses that are run by male founders. Though the trends are changing, though there are dedicated women funds that are coming, but I think the biggest thing that we need to do together is not just the women standing up for women, but also the men standing up for women and offering that kind of support and community that they need. To all the women entrepreneurs, I think consider yourself as an entrepreneur. So challenges of entrepreneurs are hard enough. You don't need to add the woman entrepreneur term to it to make it harder on yourself. Just reach out for support. I would say we don't ask for help as often as we should, and we don't rely on the community as much as we should, and that's where I think we will be able to leverage, we will be able to learn, we will be able to gain a lot just by asking. The second, I think, be part of any network or community that gives you the access to people to guide you. Don't repeat the same mistakes, which you see around. I've often seen them working in silos, making the same mistakes which people have already made. Feel free to make your own mistakes rather than repeating mistakes of someone else. And that will only happen if you move out from your silo and you start interacting, you start speaking more with people, with customers, with mentors, and get that feedback. And I think just don't be very emotionally vested in the business. If it does not work, pivot or feel free to start afresh. Sometimes we are too emotionally invested deep down the journey to be very stringent, to not change it to what the market needs, or maybe to start afresh. So I think that's where some learnings lie.
Oh, ma'am. Thank you so much. Again, as we are running short of time, I'll have just one last question for both of you. Being an expert in your field, what is your advice to young students who joined us today, who want to become entrepreneurs? So Sanjay sir, you can go first.
Sure. If you're in seed stage startup, early stage, young startup, couple of things which I would say do not do. One is, the age is on your side, so take risk, but do not take a home loan. Once you have a home loan, you will be tied up of getting a job and installments and stuff. Secondly, I've seen across burden of starting a family early. The founders get, humbled with those challenges and then not being able to become an entrepreneur. Third is, do not worry. Most of them, think about capital non-availability, and everybody comes from humble backgrounds, and a startup is one place where it's a leveling field, right? So be it rich or if you are coming from an humble background, chances of you getting capital funded by VC is very high. Capital is available in plenty. Investors are chasing good ideas. Capital is chasing good ideas. So if you got a great idea, and one thing which I definitely would like to share across, saying that building a startup is a tough journey. Always try to build teams, get a co-founder. If you can build a company alone, go ahead. But if not, then try to build a team to build a good startup.
Thank you so much, Sanjay sir. Definitely keep all these points noted and come see you soon. Asta ma'am, what are your views?
I think similar what Sanjay said, that my thing would be that one, don't be afraid to start today. There's enough help in the ecosystem to help you, to guide you. Second, would be to, think of what you're offering to the customers than to the investors, right? If you have the problem solved correct at the right stage, if you're building for the customers, investors will follow. So just differentiate from the start on who you're building for and what you're building for. And your goal should be to get the product right, not to get the investment right. I think that's where we sort of mix up in the start. The third would be, I think, often people on LinkedIn, people on Twitter, people are very active to help. What I have seen, even when the other side, a big investor or a mentor is coming forward to help you or is giving that 10 minutes, half an hour slot to you, and you go unprepared, you haven't read about it, it reflects very, very poorly on you. So I think don't rely on others to do that homework for you. Be well prepared for that 30 seconds, for that 1 minute, for that 10 minutes, for that half an hour that you get with any person, and respect their time. The more you, the better prepared you are, the well researched you are, I think the more you can derive off that conversation and make the most out of it. So yeah, always go prepared for any meeting or for any conversation that may come across your way. And like I said, feel free to reach out to people. The community is willing to offer back. A lot of them are offering support on a pro bono basis, on a friendly basis. So just ask around wherever you need help.
Thank you so much, Asta ma'am and Sanjay sir. It was really, really insightful for me as well. And so I'm sure all the audience and the students must have enjoyed it as well. So over to you, Bhavna ma'am.
Sure. Thank you so much. Once again, humbly thank all our esteemed panelists for joining us. Yash, you did a fabulous job with moderating, and thank you, Ms. Asta Grover and Mr. Sanjay Mehta for joining us and giving us your valuable time. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a huge, huge round of applause. It's a virtual applause coming from our side to all our dignitaries and sharing our love and enthusiasm for all of them and the work they do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a tough and a mighty task ahead, and I'd like my students, all the students who are here on the platform, to please support me by keeping on time, as I'll be timing you next for 2 minutes per session. All right, so first up, I'd request our student narrations to start. We've got Ms. Diksha Chaudhary, Amity University, Noida, Uttar Pradesh, joining us. Could we have Diksha? Your 2 minutes starts now.
We have a million problems, but at the same time, over a billion minds. Good evening and namaskar. Every startup that blooms into a unicorn showcases the successful implementation of an idea from scratch, a new innovation well thought of, a new way of solving problems. Unicorns are indeed creating a revolution in India by encouraging the youth to think, create, innovate, and hone their skills. I would like to propose 3 strategies that I believe will give Sunicorns their unicorn wings. The first being acquisition handling. Now, Sunicorns with high potential are often targeted by investors into diluting a major stake leading to a takeover. Thus, Sunicorns must look into this matter and also prevent any major acquisitions from foreign investors. The second being to keep the vision and mission intact. Do not simply copy the strategies that have worked for the Western world. In fact, keep trust on the vision and mission that you started with and move on. The last being focus on potential rather than unicorn status. More and more startups today are valued at over 1 billion, even if they have a dysfunctional corporate structure and hazardous business models. So unicorns must focus on developing their internal resources and then moving on to the unicorn status. To make its place on the global map, startups must focus on increasing their own potential internally. One must first look into their surroundings, solve the smaller issues, deriving solutions locally, and promoting the local culture of entrepreneurship. We must capture the local ecosystem, focus on developing our country first, getting inspired from our long business roots. Thus, the one thing that I would like to ideate for the Indian entrepreneurs is to not become a job-ready resource, rather become a resource that shall take Indian craft and ideas to greater heights. Today's India is well ambitious, ready to take risk. And with this mindset, no one can stop these innovators into touching global heights. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Diksha, for sticking on the time. We really appreciate your thoughts. Next up, Mr. Sairaj Jagdish Aiwale from the DES Brihan Maharashtra College of Commerce, Pune, Maharashtra. Well, Mr. Seraj, your time starts now. Sure. Perfect. Mr. Sahil Rizvi, D.Y. Patil University School of Management in Navi Mumbai, Maharashtra. Mr. Rizvi, over to you. Your time starts
Good
now.
afternoon, everyone. And as we know, the topic is about unicorn to unicorn. So, promising figures forecasts a promising future. Thus, investors are heavily poised to shake hands with any unicorn company. So, get the most challenging phase in any company's journey is to paddle across the time period where its valuation is served justice. The most important strategy is to select the right investors who not only add numbers in time but give the right direction and network to dabble the given scenario and journey of that startup towards the end goal. So it is very important for an entrepreneur to select an investor where he or she can, see that end goal alignment which coincides with the ideologies of two people and which in turn complements each other and tries to align your company stakeholders, employees, and all the people who are involved on board to the one goal that they have of being a unicorn. So as a unicorn company faces a lot of challenges while this phase is going on. There may be times when corporate would try to, nullify all your talented people out and buy them out and, leave them and expect you to stand firm right then. And to do that, what you actually need is, that aggressive attitude where you go out to each and every competitor and again try to regain the trust and be that company which is, the leader at that particular time. So that perfect synergy in the investor and the entrepreneur alongside the stakeholders is the real formula to being from a unicorn to getting that unicorn job done and give yourself a unidirection. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rizvi, for sticking on time and proposing your thoughts ahead. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now with this, it is time for me to invite Mr. Ashutosh Mishra, Geetam School of Business, Visakhapatnam, from Telangana to please join us. Mr. Mishra, your time starts now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good evening from the city of destiny, Visakhapatnam. So I'd like to start. First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful session, ma'am and sir. So I'd like to start with the quote by Henry Ford that coming together is beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. So this is all about what unicorn is. Unicorn, as the name suggests, these are the startups which are very going to soon turn into a unicorn based on their growth potential. The most used term on this field of startup is unicorn, that is basically a valuation of 1 billion. Talking about India, there are altogether 103 unicorn, and it is the third after India and China. And total valuation of this total unicorn is $412 billion. So only 2 out of 100 startups in India turns into a unicorn. But we people always see the darker side. We don't see the brighter side. The brighter side is that it's possible. There is great saying that if you can't do the great things, do small things in a great way. Bigger isn't always the better. Similarly, at the same time, the one thing that's great about Indian unicorns is that they identify the niche market and start working on it. Let it be OYO or Grofers. They identify the gap and then create and bridge between these gaps. Similarly, talking about there was a time when, as even spoke by mentioned by Grover ma'am, that there was a time when people didn't even think that startup would raise a $1 billion. He gave a very good example of comparing the startup with companies like Infosys, who took 30 years to raise $1 billion, but OYO, company like OYO, and they took in only 7 years to do that. So I'd like to end with this. Don't spend so much time trying to choose the perfect opportunity that you miss the right opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra, for proposing your thoughts and being on time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for me to move ahead to Mr. Shashank Jha, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Mr. Jha, your time starts now.
Hello, everyone. I wasn't expecting this level of energy in the room, but now I'm not regretting my presence here, neither feeling any guilty of killing my other plans. So I will be speaking on the topic Unicorn to Unicorns. Unicorn stands for the word soon to become unicorn, or basically a company which has the potential to become unicorn. But before I go and start saying anything, I would like to give you an intuitive idea to say how big a 1 billion number is. So if you count 1 million second, it will gonna take you around 11 days. At the same time, if you wish to count 1 billion, it will gonna take you around 31.5 years. That is the gravity of the number of 1 billion. Or I would rather prefer to say that is the value, or that is how big 1 billion or one unique company, which is what, like 1 billion, or when we say a unicorn companies out there. But what it really takes to start a company who has this level of potential. One thing which I can clearly say after being into IT for like 4 years, or I was a student who was like that, I gonna learn some hack when I go to IT, or there will gonna some structure plan that I will follow and I will become that guy who will be able to start a unicorn. But the simple answer is the mindset. Right now, among 100 unicorns, which are in India, around 76 startups have the IT people. But the only reason they are there because the mindset. They were always scared they will be able to start a startup, or they will be able to create the value, because they were clear that there's no as such way which they need to follow. They were always should be able to sense the opportunities, or I would say the problems which are around them. If I was to say that how many gonna startups or how many unicorns we gonna have in a country in upcoming years, I'm not sure about that. But one thing is which very is clear to us is, first of all, India has many problems to solve. On the same time, my youth or my people are very passionate to solve those problems. We have D2C boom, we have fintech boom, we have many other categories of problems or the markets coming in front of us. And the only way we're gonna solve it, if we, like our generation, or I would say my generation, is open to have that approach instead of building a mindset where I want to have a comfortable life and I want to just work for myself. That's what I like want to say and like convey to all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It felt like he was on a very fast track, and I like that because he stuck on time. Thank you, Mr. Job. With this, we move ahead to Ms. Isha Yatish Gujarati, Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, joining us. Ms. Isha, your time starts now.
Greetings to all. I would like to start by saying startups are not only developing innovative solutions and technologies, but are generating large-scale employment. India's journey into the fiercely competitive global unicorn market began in 2007 with InMobi, a mobile advertising technology company. However, the 2021 pandemic sparked the unicorn craze in India by accelerating the development of digital businesses. We tested a total of 44 unicorns with a combined value of $339 billion, escalating India to the third rank in global position. In my pleasure, I was fortunate to work with Mensa Brands, Asia's fastest growing Indian unicorn, which joined the club in just 6 months. In the first half of 2022, India has witnessed 17 new Sonicorns becoming unicorns and raising $11.7 billion from 506 deals, representing a 186% increase in investment and 64% increase in deal volume over 2021, which is commendable, summing up to a total of 103 Indian unicorns, accounting 18.5% of total 554 unicorns in the world today. The following 5 qualities are very important in unicorn. Disruptive, introducing cost-effective solution, tech-savvy, using digital tools and analytics for automation. Customer-focused, offering goods that address user concerns. Growth-oriented, focus on expanding and scaling the business. Efficient, producing viable goods that can be tested and improved. The target by our Minister of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Piyush Goyal, to achieve 75 unicorns in 75 weeks by 75th anniversary of our country's independence is slowed down due to wars. However, to overcome this, startups are currently preparing for a funding winter by expanding their runways. And to help them, our government has launched a number of loan programs, including the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme and the Small Industry Development Bank of India funds. To conclude, I'd like to offer the final thought. As we know, creativity is thinking up new things and innovation is doing new things. The youth of today will make a commitment to become job producers rather than job seekers. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gujarati, for that wonderful address and giving your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for me to call upon Mr. Uzair Patel from Paral University, Vadodara, Gujarat. Mr. Patel, your time starts now.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world is asleep, India will awake to life and freedom. Perhaps one of the most iconic lines which we might have come across, quoted by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1947, who declared India as an independent nation. From poverty to illiteracy to famines, India has transformed itself today by becoming self-reliant through the help of businesses and startups, which brought divine economic growth for the country, having established its name as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. Though there has been a rise in unicorns, the problem lies in creating and upscaling more startups for consistent economic growth. So to help unicorns become a unicorn, continuous upgradation and keeping up with the trends, having experienced performers in the field and having support systems such as incubators is the perfect recipe to transform the rate at which India is creating unicorns. So for a Sunicorn, I think it is better to have a mindset that we do not need to be the next Bill Gates or the next Steve Jobs. In fact, become the next Vijay Sharma. If we start by tackling the problems of the people from the ground up and help them evade small problems in their daily life, it is easier because the consumers are already available, which is the huge Indian population. The workforce is ready at command, and every individual now possesses the medium to channel your solution with the help of these gadgets. The next step is global expansion. Though there are ample of risks, the rewards beckon, from multiplying your revenue streams to genuinely building a world-class brand. A few things I like to point out is that enter a market with less competition and try to showcase the Indian startup mentality and be sensitive to foreign cultures like Asta ma'am and Sanjay sir recently stated. And remember, you were created by India, from India. So keep a stronghold in your home country rather than completely moving out. In the end, I would like to conclude by saying that remember, consistency is key. And as Biz Stone rightly stated, it usually takes 10 years for something to become an overnight success. So forget about making unicorns. We shall boast about the amount of decacorns our country holds, because we will march ahead towards a new India, a vibrant India, and a startup India. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Patel, for that wonderful address and sticking on time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to call upon Mr. Raj Venkateshwar Mishra, Sharendra Degree College, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Mr. Raj, your time starts now.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk about Sunicorn to Unicorn, how India is transforming. So as we all know that the average success rate of the startup is very adverse. Like say 90% of the startup fail in the first 5 years only, like of their commencement. But the Sunicorn problems that we are having is to build a brand as well as to have a competitive advantage over its competitors. Like to overcome these problems, Sunicorn companies should not be restricted to metropolitan cities, first of all. And second, there should be a deeper penetration in the market. And third of all, the startups, the Sunicorn startups should have a cost advantage, they should have a cost advantage on their competitors, like how Zerodha is doing, like low cost and high volume. That is the strategy of Zerodha. And the business should be online, first of all. It should be digital presence. Yeah, that is good if it is brick and mortar system. But and we experienced in COVID, like what is the importance of online things. So business should be online, like not offline only, really, but it should be online. And also the main factor which affects all these Sunicorn companies is funding. Like to expand your business, in order to expand your business, you should have a fund. And for that fund, you can approach to capital ventures, angel investors, so that you can expand your business. And last but not the least, competition can be beaten by mergers and amalgamations only. And a competing brand can be acquired by the Sunicorns for a faster growth. So these are the factors that can help Sunicorn become unicorn with the higher probability. And the last, I would like to say a quote which is quoted by Neeta Ambani is, if you can't build your dreams, someone will hire you to build theirs. So please, like the startups are emerging nowadays, and it should emerge. So and after the Startup India program, the startups are emerging drastically, as we can say. And the youth.
So, Mr. Mishra, we request you to wrap up, please. More than 2 minutes over. Yeah,
Okay,
I think that was a wonderful thought you ended up with. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's applaud all of them. The youth today, so mighty impressed with what all they spoke. So, ladies and gentlemen, in interest of time, we need to move ahead to our final session as we have our eminent leaders waiting for that. Well, it is time for our session 3, which is Atmanirbhar Bharat, Vocal for Local. Now, this theme says for itself. It is time for me to call upon our moderator, Mr. Neil Lalka, Assistant Manager, Strategy and Operations at Maharashtra State Innovation Society. A chartered accountant and a lawyer by training, Neil has been somebody who's completed his graduation and postgrad in commerce from HR College of Commerce and Economics, Mumbai. Neil was also a part of the Maharashtra Chief Minister Fellowship Program 2017 cohort and has been a part of the Maharashtra State Innovation Society, the nodal agency for startups in Maharashtra for the past 4 years. With this, I'd like to heartily welcome our moderator, Mr. Neil Lalka. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bhavna, for the warm introduction and the welcome. Thank you, IMC team, for having us over today. And I would now like to warmly welcome my panelists for today, Nick and
Neil, can I just take over and please introduce them, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Yeah, just a quick introduction, just keeping the protocol in place. Our esteemed panelists, first up, Mr. Nikunj Parashar, the co-founder, Sagar Defense Engineering Private Limited. Mr. Nikunj, a well-deserved leader and a proficient founder of the Sagar Defense Engineering Private Limited, has been recognized, ladies and gentlemen, by the Ministry of Electronics as one of the 10 best startups in the country in the electronic system design and manufacturing in strategic electronics sector. With over 14 years of experience in shipping operations, ship construction, cargo, and port operations, along with safety management, he's somebody in 2018 represented India at the Global Clean Tech Summit in LA, USA, and has been selected to attend the Global Entrepreneurship in 2019 at Den Haag. As one of the leading robotics innovators from India, and recently was conferred with a National Award for Robotics from the Government of India in 2021. Let's welcome Mr. Nikunj Parashar. Thank you so much for joining us. With this also, I'd like to heartily welcome Ms. Sohani Mohan, co-founder and CEO of Saral Designs. Sohani, being the co-founder and CEO of Saral Designs, a Mumbai-based startup providing access to quality, affordable hygiene products to low-income communities in Asia and Africa. She's somebody who's been recognized as a top 25 trailblazing women in Mumbai by Forbes India and 25 most powerful women in impact by Business Today. She's an Acumen India Fellow, Young Alumni Achiever, IIT Bombay, recipient of India Africa Young Visionary Award from the Ministry of External Affairs India, the top women entrepreneur at Empower by the Department of Science and Technology, and of course, the winner of the National Entrepreneurship Award by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So a huge welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Ms. Sohani Mohan. Thank you so much for joining us. Whilst as we have our eminent panelists, of course, Neil, I'd now like to pass on the live agent to you to take forth with your discussion. Over to you.
Thank you. Sorry for butting in a little early, Bhavna.
No worries.
So warm welcome to Nikunj and Sohani. I'm really excited for this evening, and thank you for taking out the time, firstly. Atmanirbhar Bharat is something which is very close to our hearts, and I think all our organizations, Sagar Defense, Saral Designs, Maharashtra State Innovation Society work towards that objective. So I'll give you the audience a quick brief about what MSINS does. We are the nodal agency for startups and innovation in Maharashtra. We support startups across various stages of their life cycle, right from awarding work orders to deserving startups who built innovative solutions for the government, to supporting incubators across the state, grant of up to 85 crores. We are also supporting startups with their patent-related costs. So there's a reimbursement of up to 2 lakh rupees for domestic patents, up to 10 lakh rupees for international. And any startup who does any kind of product development and chooses to get the product tested at any NABL or BIS certified lab, there's a reimbursement of up to 2 lakh rupees. Essentially, all these schemes focus on startups who are building, who are manufacturing, who are creating, who are designing in Maharashtra. And I think that is what lies at the heart of the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme as well. Without any further ado, I would like to throw the first question to Sohani and Nikunj. We've already heard your introduction, but could you tell us a bit more about your journey so far? Considering your background, so Sohani is from IIT Bombay, Nikunj is an ex-merchant navy captain. You always had that option of having a comfortable, cushy job without that whole effort and grunt work involved in setting up your own venture. What is it that brought you to this journey? Sohani, would love to start with you.
Sure. So this was back in 2013. After graduating from IIT Bombay, I joined an investment bank, which is a cushy job. And it was also in Mumbai, and from my home to my office, I would daily cross the slum areas of Dharavi, and every morning I would see the contrast between in sanitation conditions in my office versus what I would see every morning in Dharavi, and it just bothered me a lot, and I felt something should be done about it, and I just started volunteering for CSR activities in the investment bank that I was working with. And that was when, for the first time, at the age of 23, I realized about the gravity of the problem of menstrual hygiene, that a majority of women in India did not have access to sanitary napkins, and because they were not affordable, they were not accessible in the last mile. And I just felt, being an engineer, being a woman engineer, these are certain problems that would never get solved unless there is more participation of women in these spaces. And I just felt it's a right calling for me. I was anyway looking out in terms of what more can be done in the society apart from working in a banking career, and it just felt like a calling for me. And uh, it was like way early before the startup wave really came to India. There were very few startups back then in Mumbai, but and very few social enterprises. So it was a big risk, but luckily I had a good support system from my family, and everyone was encouraging, so I could take that plunge.
Brilliant, Yaswani. What about you, Nikunj?
Hi, Neil. So, as Suhani said, even I had a fantastic job, actually a very highly paid job, even looking today's scenario. And, I would like to put my salary of 14 lakh rupees a month on a ship. So, as a captain of a ship earning 14 lakh rupees a month, I think there was something wrong with my head that to quit that job and come and join up the startup life. But what I realized, money is not everything. And the biggest challenge for a sailor was to always go out at sea, remain there for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, even as a senior officer, and even making so much of money. So the thought process went through my mind was, in which ways could I change a way where sailors could stay back home? And this was always there in my mind. And being a mechanical engineer, but taking an executive role, this had to do a lot of technology. So the difficult part was how to go ahead with technology in this, and this is where my wife really supported. And the most important part is, when you're married, you need your better half to really support you strong. So when I quit my job and I asked my wife that, will you look after the family? She said yes. And I think that really helped me and transpired me to really take on to my journey to be where I am today with my team today. So it was a way to give back to the community I come from, and it's a long journey of another 10 years, 15 years down the line, where we see ourselves actually solving the problem of keeping sailors really out at sea. But that really motivated me, and it was it's not about money, it's not about becoming unicorn, but it's about solving a problem of keeping the sailors back home. So this was that motivation, which is a very big problem statement if you see in one point of way, and to maintain a socio-economic balance. So as a sailor, I felt being a navigator, I was in a best position that I could solve that problem. And when we look at India with such a big coastline, we are not a maritime nation. So it really opened me an opportunity and a Pandora of opportunities out there to really work and test on different business cases. So this was that push which really pushed me a lot to come here and start my journey in.
Amazing. Yeah, so inspiring. I'm hoping the young audience which we have today is getting inspired as much as I am today. As startups who chose, set up manufacturing units in Maharashtra, what are your thoughts on Atmanirbhar Bharat and the fact that you are emerging technology startups? Do you really think that the backward and forward linkages which are required to manufacture in India are available, or is it something which has been a part of your struggle so far?
Neil, I'll take this question over here. And where I'm sitting is the manufacturing startup. We have the facility we have just set up. When we talk about backward and forward linkages, let us start with setting up the facility itself. And I think there is no better person than you who knows much more than what Sagar Defense here has been possible. So the first point is, the government itself has been very supportive. And especially I would say is, setting up a factory. And when you are a sailor, you really don't know how to set up a factory. Let me be blunt at it. I didn't know how to set up a factory. So I went across, luckily took a land. And when I took a land, I came to know that in MIDC, there is a 40% royalty you need to pay. Now you have bought a land, you have paid the stamp duty, but you need to pay a royalty, which is so huge. Now, if the government would have not been there for us, and especially Maharashtra State Innovation Society, that problem would have not been solved. So 40% was converted down to something between 2 to 6%. So that means there is an integration which is available. The system is there to support you. And due to that, I was able to set up the facility. Now, once you set up the facility, then comes in the subsidy. If you're looking at, you have to understand that. Now, the part of a government role or a part of a state innovation society, what you guys are doing is you're actually taking the horse to the lake, right? It's our duty to drink it. But what I see, especially with Maharashtra State Innovation Society, is they have made us drink it also. That's the beauty and that's the support. So I feel the backward and forward infrastructure is already there. Now, being a defense manufacturing unit, and where the technology and 90% of the big large scale corporates here in India are generally dependent on outside manufacturers, outside OEMs, and then the end product comes out here in India. But when you are as a startup are working on certain problem statements of the defense, in that scenario, you're developing the technology ground up. So if you are in a place like Chakan or you are in any of the 5-star MIDC across India, you have all the component manufacturers, you have all the system integrators available with you. So we see it's very easy to scale, especially in Maharashtra, where the integration capability is very great. You have right resources available across. And we being in Chakan, especially, what we have realized is not only the business which is coming from across the customer, we are also getting internal business from the MIDC itself. So we feel, yes, it's great. Certain amount of infrastructure and test setups and facility would grow up with the time, but it's Atmanirbhar Bharat and vocal for local. I think 5 years down the line, we'll have everything. So somewhere we need to start, and the right start has been done.
Nikunj, I'll take one more follow-up question with you. So whatever little I understand of the drones industry, last I checked, less than 5 or 10% of the total drone guys in India are actually manufacturing in India. Do you see that changing anytime soon? And what is the reason behind this statistic? Like, why is this the situation right now?
It's great. We don't call ourselves as drone company. We keep ourselves away from being a drone company. We call ourselves an engineering company. Drone was one vertical where we entered. But as you rightly said, it's absolutely correct. So there are core 3 good drone manufacturers, if you see. One is Idea Forge, which is the largest. Then comes Hysteria, backed by Reliance. New Space, which is now coming up. But the major was due to the China manufacturing and impetus a lot, where the manufacturing infrastructure is very good. So you got component level manufacturing happening in China. So the inflow of the manufacturing semi assemblies available, it has made this out of a lot of startups coming in very easy to assemble and fly. But the core tech is still not available. So that is why 5 to 8% of these companies are only manufacturing purely, where we are also one of them. But in coming 2 to 3 years down the line, where the PLI schemes have kicked in and where the government, especially under Shri Ambar Dubeji, the support has been so very strong, and even the Secretary Moka, the support has been so very strong that 2 to 3 years down the line, from 5 to 8%, this should come close to 30%. Because the current mindset which has come in a lot of people is, and you see every week you will find 2 drone startups coming up. But actually, these are assembling startups. So yes, this is a phase. It's like a bubble which is growing up. But another 2 years down the line, you would see certain failures, certain very big failures also happening in. But then the real crux will happen. So we see that happening, and that revolution and change happening in. This is the time, or I call it the renaissance in the Indian aviation industry, which is happening now. So give it time. 3 years down the line, the percentage will also increase, and also the tech front development will happen.
Thank you for the insights, Nikunj. What about you, Sohani?
I think I agree with Nikunj on the point that Maharashtra always has had a good infrastructure, particularly because automobile manufacturing, especially in MIDC area in Pune and Mumbai outskirts, was always good, and there were a lot of manufacturers whose capabilities of fabrications got developed because of being a part of the entire automobile supply chain. The challenge initially for startups is that we don't have the minimum order quantity that these manufacturers usually require. And earlier, when we had started back in 2013-14, they would not entertain small players. But now I think that has also changed because there's so much awareness about startups and they are willing to take more risks and make more innovative products. Also, what people have seen because of the pandemic, which has been a major shift in how people perceive different companies and smaller orders, is that people also want to now distribute their risk and not have all orders going to one large manufacturing company. So they are more willing to collaborate with smaller entities also. So it's a better news for more startups who are planning into getting into core manufacturing, core engineering fields. Secondly, price used to be the biggest parameter while why people would still go ahead and import things from China. Again, due to the pandemic, the world has been exposed to the supply chain vulnerabilities, and for 6 months people couldn't import anything from China. And even right now there's a lot of logistics challenges that are going on, and people are coming more and more towards looking at Indian manufacturers and how can they Indianize their supply chains, uh, which I cannot say I'm very certain on how much sustainable that would be. Would it change after some of these logistics crises go away? But it is a promising sign. People are valuing Indian technology more within India. There's more pride, of course, because of all the campaigns of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Vocal for Local. There's the pride component which has also come in, which is encouraging people to pay a little higher to go for Indian technologies, and which is something that we have seen in the machines that we manufacture for the hygiene industry. Earlier people would just go to China because it was 20-30% cheaper. Now people are more willing to spend that 30% extra. Uh, the the thing that we eventually have to get to is that what Nikunj was also saying, the parts, the last component of the semiconductors and electronics, or anything in especially in hygiene industry, the wood pulp, for example, all that is still not made in India. So we are still relying on other countries for the core material that would go in to make everything. We are gradually going backward and backward in terms of integration. But where innovation will also help, and where new startups and larger companies also have to step in, is uh, Indianize the base raw materials. Now I can talk about more from a hygiene industry perspective. All the raw materials which are used primarily in the hygiene space are the ones which are more predominantly available in Canada, in US, in Europe for that weather conditions, and not local fibers which are available in India. So till we actually integrate it to that level, we will have some reliance on other countries to import, and that is where the change has to happen. uh, Innovation at every level. And I'm sure some of these campaigns and subsidies that we can talk about subsequently also have helped more people get into this space. But we systematically have to look at all industries which are especially which create a lot of jobs, and see how do we uh, Indianize the entire supply chain from the core product, which is actually extracted from the earth, to the final product that reaches the consumer.
Interesting, so interesting. So there are a lot of young people listening to us today and who will probably be potential startups tomorrow. Throughout your journey, what are the top 2 or 3 government teams which have probably supported you and which you would like to highlight today?
So I'll step into this first. I think we were one of the first cohorts of Maharashtra State Innovation Society's Startup Awards, wherein through the Startup Award, we were given a contract to work with the Maharashtra government. I think that was one of the first projects that we did with the government, and it is very difficult for startups to apply to tenders and few other things because there are restrictions on how much the earnest money deposited, which is a lot of capital that you need to get into, turnover restrictions, and a few other things. So that was a very good starting point for us to actually know how it is to work with the government. How do you present yourself? What are the things that governments really look for? And also, it helps in solving the cash flow issues with most government tenders, that this award money really comes in tranches rather than you finishing the entire project and then getting funds. So I think that has been fairly beneficial to understand how the government ecosystem works. And with MSINS, I think we have reached out to Neil and the team so often with regards to any subsidy, any query that we have around various schemes. Particularly in manufacturing, especially for small scale manufacturing, a lot of entrepreneurs in India buy sanitary napkin making machines from us and set it up in their towns to create local brands. They come up with a lot of new innovative ideas, etc. And for them, uh, there are many interesting schemes by the central government as well as by banks in terms of Mudra loan, CGTMSE. There is also PM Employment Generation Program. There's a CM Employment Generation Program also for Maharashtra, with which you can get subsidies if you are setting up manufacturing in rural areas. If you come from a underprivileged background, all those things add more subsidies and support you. Apart from the schemes that you already mentioned about for patents, for participating in conferences, for applying for certifications, those things are really good for people who are just starting off, and even 1-2 lakh rupees is a lot to spend on certifications. And getting these things upfront, having like an ISO, having lab certification from NABL really adds a lot to the credibility of a startup, and some of these schemes really help in building that.
Thank you, Zuhani. What about you, Nikunj?
So our name stands Sagar Defense Engineering. So everything is with the government, I would say. And all the VCs, the first thing ask is your business government. So, we started off with government, you are with the government. So I'll start with the first journey. 2015, the company was formed only on the support of Invest India. And Invest India gave us such a strong holding that initial projects, even all the way going and meeting the defense minister, was arranged by the Invest India to really participate in certain amounts of tender. While we were doing this, and the strong support was also from their end, we came across Maharashtra Startup Week first cohort ad, and we were a defense company. We had no idea what to do, and there was a sanitation challenge problem, but we realized there was something very different. And that's where we applied. We became the part of the first cohort. Now, working with different organizations across, whether it's the Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, especially with Maharashtra State Innovation Society, and it was a business case. And Neil has been a lot many places along with us, right from Nagpur to Pune, a number of places, being on field. So the best part when I say is the Neil and his team, they have always been there on the team. This is what a different kind of opportunity for us to really open up and the project and the hand holding. And it did not stop there. It did not stop there. Thereafter, we also came up with a business case to develop a CSR project, and getting the CSR project, supplying the CSR project, and then taking the fund out of it. And that means even from a state municipal corporation, working along with MSINS, getting the fund out. What are the complications was a learning mechanism for all of us. What it did is it also opened opportunities for us to export the technology out. So we landed up exporting systems also outside. And at the same time, not only with the Maharashtra state government, but also it helped us to work with other state government across. So the hand holding for us to Sagar Defense to be where we are today has been due to the government. It has been very strong hand holding, especially with the Maharashtra State Innovation Society, because they ask you on almost regular basis where your progress is. So this is something great, especially in Maharashtra, and we are very fortunate that we are part of Mumbai and we have been able to have this hand holding. Being in defense sector, again, the question is of credibility, because these are soldiers who are going to go on war with your mechanisms and with your machines. So there is a lot of convincing. Now, whenever you bring in indigenous technology, the thought process in the armed forces is, if it's Indian, it has to be cheap, vocal for local. So you should come down on the cost. What we realize, being Indian, we are going to be expensive. We are not going to be cheap. And possibly a bit higher, because the infrastructure facility is still setting up. And that has been now accepted at the government level. And then, what has happened is certain programs like Indian Navy, where we work very exclusively, MOUs have been done, where they have made us their technology partners for carrying out certain challenge and problem statements. So government is also looking at different ways to engage with startups, ways to engage with MSMEs and SMEs. We also have to be very forward looking, because it's an old, very strong system which has started pre-independence. So it's going to take some time to change. And it's our end that we have to also accept that certain things are not going to happen by fly by night, but we should know our ways to work it out. And as long as you know the chain of command, whether it's a municipal corporation or whether it is any government central agencies, and if you have people like Neil and team, I think things will work out for you.
Interesting. Nikunj, do you also want to highlight something like the IDEX program, which is doing some interesting things for defense startups?
Oh, I'm a test case in IDEX. So this is very, very, so generally very first thing happens to me. When COVID happened, I was the first guy to get COVID in Vasai and Virar. So I was flashed all over news channels. When the first drone flew in Dharavi, I was the first guy there. So my dad says that kahin bum girega to pehle tere upar girega. So when IDEX happened, and it's fantastic, we got selected part to develop autonomous underwater vehicle. Excellent. We were the only company to be selected by the Navy end. So generally this challenge goes to 1 to 2 different parties. It was only us. And that means it opens a tremendous door. Now, moment when the secret document opened, we realized we do not have to give one system, we have to give 20 systems. The fund was only for 1.5 crore. I was investing another 1.5 crore. And it's an underwater system. Imagine a prototype which you lose at 30 meters of depth is gone forever. You can't recover it. So we realized you have to build 20 systems in 3 crores. How do I do this? I said, you can't do this project. It's not possible. And that's where the forward-looking approach of the government of India, the secretaries and joint secretaries in the Ministry of Defense, they were so positive. And most of all, Mazgaon Dock Limited, which is our DPSU based out of Mumbai. We went across, we discussed, we showcased our business strategy, and Ministry got a partnership done. And this was outside the preview of IDEX. So generally, when you win a challenge, you have won it alone. You have to do it alone. So beautifully, they went across the policy, introduced another clause, and they got MDL on board, and they're funding us for $2 million to develop that whole project. So the support has been very strong, very tremendous. And that's why I say, in between we had come up with a slogan saying, Sagar defense means we save you towards your 40% of capex and 60% of opex. But now we come back and say strongly that Sagar Defense we are a defense manufacturing unit. We are a defense unit which is built to really safeguard the borders of our country. So the mindset has changed. It's fantastic, and vocal for local is going very strong.
Thank you, Nikunj. To the last and final question for today. Funding helps fuel growth. How easy or difficult has it been for you as manufacturing startups to raise funds? Your thoughts on the constant struggle between value and valuations?
Value and valuation is something I'm still learning. I would not lie to you. It is something I may say an X price for it, and somebody may say X minus 2 or X plus 10. What's important is what IPs you're creating, and do you have a comparable to it in the industry? That's very important for you to look at. And then you can really place yourself smart. Secondly, when it comes to raising investments, God has been very kind on me. Luckily, we have been followed and supported by the right people right from start. There have been people who have been following right from our initial days when we were operating out of 120 square feet. And when we needed fund, they were there that shall we fund you. So I have not want to show such big VCs to raise investment till this date. But yes, we have raised investment for ONGC and Maharashtra Aerospace Defense Fund, and it's been doing excellent. So when we were raising our Series A round, and the first thing we told them, hey, look, we are going to raise a Series A round, they came up and said, hey, look, this is our commitment to you. So when you do your work right, and you don't keep in mind that investment is only way for your success, and you're not looking at creating a value in terms of only your valuation, and not in terms of creating a real tangible value, then it's a problem. But where you are creating a real tangible value, I think raising investments would not be a problem. It may come with certain difficulty, but it teaches you in the hard way and you can move on. So that's how it is. We are a profit-making company, we make revenue, and that's where we create our value. So that's how we have been doing it.
Interesting. What about you, Suhani?
I think I completely agree with Nikunj on that value comes before valuation in any case. I think, of course, funds are required for running any business, right? There are indirect expenses, there are expansions, inventory, so much so for manufacturing, there are a lot more additional costs that you have to keep in mind. But raising venture capital is not the only way of financing your company. Like, of course, customer funded financing, you get contracts from larger organizations, you show your worth and get larger contracts which pay in advance. That is one way to fund your working capital, which we have done. There are several grant making organizations as well, especially in the healthcare space that we are working in. There we have received funding support from USAID, Grand Challenges Canada, Department of Science and Technology. There are various funds to support R&D projects as well. So it is not necessary that you go for venture capital and diluted equity when you're not sure of what value the investors are going to add you at that point. Also, in terms of why do you need the capital is important to be assessed. If it is for R&D, there are grant capital availabilities. If it is for working capital, there are so many debt schemes which are available, and for profit making manufacturing companies, it's also one of the cheapest form of financing to raise. There are collateral free loans also, so even if you don't have any property or anything to pledge, you can still raise financing up to 2 crores through a lot of these schemes which are available. I think venture capital comes in for specific types of startup ideas where you need a lot of capital to attract a minimum volume, after which your unit economics will start becoming positive, and you need a lot of audience quickly to come in, a lot of advertising, a lot of downloads, which is not necessarily the case with manufacturing. You can scale it linearly as your demand increases. So that is why we have also not raised serious venture capital. We have only done a Series A so far, and for the last 3 years, despite the pandemic, we have also been running the business profitably, which sort of fuels our further growth going forward.
Brilliant, Suhani. Thank you. Thank you, Nikunj. Thank you, Suhani, for taking out the time once again today. I hope the audience has found our banter useful and very inspiring. And I hope I am okay on the time.
Absolutely, Neil. Thank you so much for managing it so well. I'd really like to applaud all of you. You guys have done such a wonderful job. All our leaders who are present on the panel, once again, Nikunj and Suhani, thank you so much for your valuable expertise. And Neil, it couldn't have been possible without you throwing those right questions to get the information. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, with those virtual applause coming in, and that's the best we can do today for all of you. Well, it is time for me to now move ahead with the students' narrations now. Students, please note that you only have 2 minutes. Now, remember, time is the biggest asset, and I'm going to be timing all of you one by one, and I believe you can deliver it. First up, I would now like to extend a warm welcome to Ms. Akansha Rosekar from the Aditya Institute of Management Studies and Research, Mumbai, to please join us. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Yes, hi. So a very warm good evening to everyone present here. The Vocal for Local initiative was primarily launched to help the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and to revive the domestic industries which were severely affected during the COVID pandemic. The initiative stems from the Swadeshi movement and amplifies the Make in India campaign. Vocal for Local isn't only about producing domestic goods and manufacturing them. It's also about globally promoting them. And for that, we need to scale up our domestic production, and a strategic promotion is needed to set up a market in other nations. I feel that marketing and advertising have a significant role in boosting the Vocal for Local initiative. There's a famous saying, doing business without advertising is like winking in the dark. You know what you are doing, but the others don't. Today, there are a lot of mediums and channels available for increasing visibility. Advertising agencies, on the other hand, must become more adaptable and imaginative and create more chances for the local businesses to become more visible. Research and development is one of the crucial aspects which needs more investment from the Indian industry to produce materials which are otherwise imported. I'd like to direct your attention to the 41st Hunar Haat, which was held in Agra this May. It saw a huge participation from people from across 32 states, and it created employment for over 10,50,000 craftsmen and artisans from all sections, among which 50% were women. I believe when it comes to strengthening the Vocal for Local initiative, and compassion and encouragement are crucial. When you buy something from a local store or a local shopkeeper, there's an actual person's happiness we contribute in. Another aspect which needs to change is the mindset of buying substitute goods from other countries because they are relatively cheaper. We need to understand that the Indian economy is directly proportional to job creations. I would like to conclude by saying that in a country of countless voices, every voice counts. It's high time we got Vocal for Local. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Akansha. 1 minute, 50 seconds. Well done on your time, and thank you for your support. Well, it is time for me to call upon Ms. Brina Fernandez, HR College of Commerce and Economics, Mumbai, Maharashtra, to join us. Ms. Brina, your time starts now.
So the first thing that comes to our mind when we think of a startup is a big tech company, big boardrooms, intelligent people with suits sitting in a room, and that may not really be the case when it comes to our country. So a very good evening to one and all present here, and I would like to speak about the Atmanirbhar initiative. I know when we speak of Atmanirbhar, we want to be self-reliant, but are we self-reliant? And what are the two problems? Well, with these two problems, there are two solutions that I would like to propose. One that will come be a solution from that will be a solution from the government, and the other that will be a solution from our end. Is our business environment really a favorable one? For someone to even start something as simple as a restaurant, it requires at least 11 licenses. These things need to be changed. In the year 2020, when the Atmanirbhar program was proposed, we thought of having 12 self-sustainable industries. But even today, like even just now, Ms. Mohan mentioned, she said that there's not a single industry where everything is produced from scratch. We need to actually start creating drug parks, creating spaces where a product is not only assembled, but it is also manufactured. Like one says, if I keep an ice cream in the sun, I cannot blame the sun. I have to blame myself because I have not taken care of my product. And in the same way, the opportunities are not same for somebody like me living in a metropolitan city and somebody in the village trying to sell maybe one vada pav a day or one product a day. Maybe we could think of one platform that is useful and beneficial to everyone across all areas. Another solution that I would like to propose with the problem is something that involves us. We as Indians have this very common perception of brand loyalty. Once we stick to a brand, we like it. Be it Colgate that we've been using for ages or whatever it is. Recently on Shark Tank India, there was this product that created a hype that was tags, this big chips packet. But how many of us have actually switched using, from using Lay's as our daily chip packet with tags? That is exactly the kind of mindset I think we need to create. We need to start making a list of products. Say, look at 5 products around you that are maybe not Indian and start
Ms.
switching them with
Fernandez,
Indian products.
time is nearing. Please, your
Okay.
time. Thank you so much.
Yes, so
Ms.
thank you so much.
Fernandez, very enthusiastic, and we got your point out there. Thank you for the enthusiasm and your thoughts. With this, it is time for me to move ahead to Ms. Disha Lalwani, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, to please join us. Ms. Disha, your time starts now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Disha Lalwani, going to be 30 in the Mechanical Engineering Department at IIT Bombay, and I'm here today to share my views on Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, as we all know, is the vision of new India aiming to encourage a self-generating and self-sustaining nation. However, the idea behind this movement is not new. The idea finds its root in one of India's most successful pre-independence movements, Swadeshi, which went ahead and evolved into the Make in India way. But what do they all imply? They all stress upon the same thing: to lower dependence on imports and boost local production of high value goods. Division of labor and specialization in different products, leading to the creation of widespread global supply chain, is commendable. But it is equally, if not more important, to be able to satisfy the basic demands for necessities. It is also important to have substitutes in place so as to not have to scramble in panic as global supply chains break down. The power of vocal for local steps in here. The advantages of vocal for local is threefold. Firstly, it reduces dependence on foreign products and hence cuts down on the import pressure. Secondly, it boosts employment opportunities in the nation. And thirdly, it fits in with the economic backlash and places India in a strategic position to emerge as the new manufacturing center of the world. The main challenge in achieving this lies in the fact that specialization leads to competitive pricing. This could be combated with the bloom of the Indian startup ecosystem. Indian startups are the shining beacon of Atmanirbharta. It is a chance for Indian startups to take charge of the innovations for which we usually depend on global suppliers. We at the Entrepreneurship Cell, IIT Bombay, share the common belief that for India to emerge as a world power, the youth has to break the shackles of prejudice and inertia that has kept them from starting up. We work along the same lines to boost entrepreneurship for India's development. I call upon my fellow mates to fuel their entrepreneurship mindset, develop unconventional thinking to rise over the herd mentality,
Ms. Lalwani, the
and
time
develop
is up,
appetite
please.
for risk and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Lalwani. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just request all our students to please maintain on the audio front as well. It is time for us to now call upon Mr. Sunil Simon, National Institute of Calicut from Kerala, joining us. Sunil, your 2 minutes start now.
Vocal for local has become the latest trending slogan which has emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic. The idea of the slogan, Vocal for Local, is to promote local industries and consume local wherever possible, so that the long-term effect of an increase in demand can be used to develop the domestic industries and make them gradually self-reliant. At this point, I would like to bring your attention to the most important question of why, even after all these years, our nation, Mother India, is still lacking. Well, there are several reasons why the development of domestic industries stopped after a point. The primary reason for this is the presence of excessive bureaucracy and red tape. Another reason is the lack of funding options. And this is the primary reason for the late bloom of Indian startup ecosystem. Regrettably, the challenges in making vocal for local a dream come true is far from over. At present, some of the sectors are heavily dependent on the import of strategic raw materials from different countries. And there is also the fact that the Vocal for Local movement is not the first initiative to make India a manufacturing center. In fact, it is simply the Make in India movement in a new avatar. Now, these obstacles are not something that could easily be dealt by us on an individual level. It requires proper planning and efficient implementation of government policies. Nevertheless, I would like to suggest a few changes that could be implemented at an individual level, which could help in making the movement a success. Apart from the common concept we hear as receptiveness and advertising, there are some things which should be dealt at the root to solve the case. The point which I would like to put forward at this conclave is a lack of financial literacy in our country. Financial literacy is not a byproduct of financial stability. In fact, it's the exact opposite. At the end of the day, the success of any new business or startup is not about the availability of funding. It's all about how well the entrepreneur manages his finances. Being aware of the opportunity to have a financial stability motivates individuals to pursue non-conventional jobs.
Apologies. Your time is up. We've got your first suggestion and we'd really like to thank you on that. We have to cut in and move on ahead with our next speaker. Our next student, Mr. Rishabh Oswal, SVKM's Narsi Munji Institute of Management Studies from Mumbai, joining us. Mr. Rishabh, your 2 minutes start now.
Hello, good evening, one and all. So I'll start by asking you all, what does this mean to you all, vocal for local? So vocal for local is a concept that dates back to the era of Swadeshi movement, which started in 1905 as a part of Indian independence movement. As an economic strategy, it helped develop Indian nationalism at that time. India became competitive in the international market since then. Talking about competitiveness, in the time of distress, it was important to step up and do everything we could to revive the Indian economy. We did this by becoming completely self-reliant, calling on vocal for local and entering for a new form of globalization. By being vocal for local, we aren't rejecting the globalization, but calling for a new form of it. Self-reliance is the new vision for India, which is neither exclusionary nor isolationist. Local has helped us through the crisis of COVID-19 and has helped us survive. They used to say that necessity is the mother of invention, but in our case, scarcity was the one. When jobs were hard to come, vocal for locals helped adapt to the crisis by creating new jobs through innovation, new methods. We created products and services that were made in India, made for India, and were also made for the world. Creating a self-reliant India meant having to be completely self-sufficient and producing and supporting the local businesses and services. Concluding the talk, I would say that this is very different from what earlier used to be, that is isolationist and protectionist movement around the world. The world looked at Indian pharma to supply the corona vaccine, and several pharma companies were in the race to deliver it. Like the rest of the world, we certainly are going through a tough phase, but we will shine out due to the vast pool of educated talent, the huge demand centers, the resilience of its entrepreneurs, and the unflagging spirit of the Indian people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sticking on the time and delivering it so well. Well, with this, I'd now like to call upon Ms. Mansi Lumbre, Srimati Natibai Damodar Thakure's Women University, which is the SMDD, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Ms. Mansi, your time starts now.
Hello, everyone.
Greetings of the day. The most trusted promotion publicity of anything in this world is the word of mouth, also considered as vocal publicity, and is considered as one of the most trusted brands as it highlights the customer satisfaction. We create brands, and this is the reality of today's world. And once a brand is established, owning its products become a status symbol. Like most of the people about whom we calculate are based on the products that they own. Vocal for Local initiative can be successful only if citizens of our nation actively participate in it by buying local, that is, made in India products, and help our in-house businesses to flourish. The most important thing for any business is its customers. If he is satisfied, then the business is on the right track. Otherwise, the strategies need to be reconsidered. India has a huge social media crowd that can be utilized to promote these brands and products. Our youth can be of great help in doing so, as they are familiar with these digital marketing tools and their strategies. By doing this, they can even get employed and generate revenue for themselves. This will help the nation's money roll within its boundaries and help its development. Vocal for Local initiative can be successful only if all of us come together and work towards it by contributing as possible. As they say, teamwork makes a dream work. So come, let's together make this initiative a successful one by buying, promoting, and creating awareness of this old but the newest brand, that is made in India, where quality products at affordable rates can be manufactured. What are you waiting for? Let's begin the PR activity of our very own brand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mamsi. Very well delivered. Your words went ahead, and thank you for that. Well, with this, I'd like to call on the final student, Mr. Prathamesh Rege, SP Mandali's Wellinkers Institute of Management Development and Research, Mumbai, to join us. Mr. Prathamesh, your time starts now.
A very good evening to one and all. I, Prathamesh Rege, on behalf of V School Mumbai, would like to thank the IMC Chambers of Commerce and Industry for giving me this august opportunity to speak today. Come festivals, we've all received messages asking us to prefer buying local produce instead of the ones made in China. We've also seen brands proudly flaunt the words Make in India and Vocal for Local. But have we ever spared a second on why this sudden push for encouraging local goods? PM Modi, in all his recent addresses, has called for a self-reliant India, or Atmanirbhar Bharat. And rightly so, because as they say, self-help is always the best help. And since then, almost every government body has come out with various initiatives that encourage this. What is interesting to me, though, is that the Vocal for Local movement seems to be drawing many parallels from the Swadeshi movement that was driven by a quest for political self-reliance pre-independence. And what's more interesting is how India's youth, even then, played a major role in its success. To think of it, the enthusiasm for Atmanirbhar Bharat seems like an appropriation and continuation of India's historical ambition for gaining strategic autonomy. But like most developing nations, the biggest challenge India has faced in recent decades is improving the quality of its products to global standards. While India is bestowed with all kinds of physical features and climatic conditions, our largely young population and their diversity remain our strength. What is needed, though, is instilling that desire for quality in the consciousness of every Indian youth, such that our goods are sought after worldwide. Mind you, we can realize the dream of a self-reliant India only when we, the youth, pledge to bring quality to every facet of our lives. If we look at the COVID-19 pandemic, we find that the biggest crisis facing economies was the weakening of demand. And that is why, while we, the youth, should no doubt work at strengthening our supply chains and infrastructures, we must also simultaneously adopt measures to strengthen its demand in the economy. Being Atmanirbhar is a laudable policy path, and unleashing the true potential of India's youth has to be its key approach. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, Vocal for Local was and remains to be the need of the hour. Thank you so much.
Well, very well executed, and I must say we're so impressed with all our youth. Let's give them a virtual applause, for speaking their heart out and minds out. This really deserves a huge, huge round of applause. Well, with this, the final student was in, and it is time for me to call upon the final session, which is going to be a motivation address on youth is the force, hope, and leaders of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't have had a better speaker than this, Dr. Sai Kaustav Dasgupta, happiness coach, TEDx speaker, and an author. Having a rare brittle bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta. He's somebody who's popularly known as the wheelchair warrior of India. By profession, he's an international graphic designer, motivational speaker, TEDx speaker, and India's first differently abled certified happiness coach. By passion, he's a singer, composer, entrepreneur, and has had 15 plus world record holder, inclusion and diversity champion, and a founder of the virtual platform called Happiness Unlimited. Well, with this, I'd like to happily welcome Dr. Sai Kaustav Dasgupta for our final session. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a huge, huge round of applause.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are enjoying the panel discussions and celebrating this Youth Conclave 2022 by Young Leaders Forum of IMC happening, virtually spreading new ideas, empowering thousands of youths all over the nation. Myself, Dr. Sai Kaustav Dasgupta, feeling empowered right now, energetic and excited to address you all today, sharing my ideas to build an inclusive, diverse, and accessible nation. As it rightly said, youth is the force, hope, and leaders of tomorrow. As they are the face of our community, society, and country at large. But how about a youth leader in a wheelchair? Yes, you heard it right. People call me wheelchair warrior of India. Having a rare brittle-bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta and going through more than 50 fractures, it is not so easy to cope up with 90% disability. I too was excluded in different ways. Depression, which has become a common language of young generation, I had seen it face to face for 6 long years. And those times I used to feel alone, lost and upset. And because I could not see the beautiful creation outside, I could not see sun, moon, and all these things. I was really having darkness all around. A deep thought used to haunt me every time, that what is going to happen to me, and why me? Why I'm alive to see such a pathetic condition. My friends, we all try to chase a tunnel. We all do because we see the light towards the end of the tunnel, which keeps us moving, keeps us going forward. But for me, there was a tunnel, but there was no light. And then I realized that the words have the power to heal the soul. Yes, I heard some powerful words from within, which made me today what I am. I had grown up differently from childhood, but there was a strong urge inside that to showcase my abilities rather than my disabilities. So I always tell all the young people, all the young stars, that do not do such plans in your life which is not in your hand. If you plan for your tomorrow, create automatically. When I go out and address all the young leaders, I feel sometimes they are feeling, they're struggling, that they are complaining about small, silly things. And they say me that they're not having enough opportunities to excel in their lives. And people feel caged. They blame and complain about others. They feel happiness can be bought by situations and people and their behavior. But they never satisfy with what they have, with their belongings. And comparing with this and that, they keep postponing the happiness. But being a certified happiness coach, your own happiness coach, I can tell you a secret today, that happiness is not in outside. It is something with inner self. It is an inner journey. So I always feel you should not search for it, but you can earn happiness. And I address everyone that it is all okay to declare about your issues, to share about your problems. Everything is okay. You can criticize, you can come and tell me that what all the things are happening, but you should not give up. That should not be an option, because they say that giving up is not an option but can be a stepping stone towards your successful journey. When you accept yourself with everything the way you are, the world starts recognizing you. It happens with me, so I experienced it, and I can tell you how you can accept and transform your journey. It all starts within. We have an amazing fantasy in our life that everything should work as I plan. This is my plan, and it should go everything as I am seeing forward. And if it does not happen the way, we fed up, we give up. And I never wanted to be sitting on a wheelchair today, and I never thought wheelchair will be a lifeline for me. But people today call me wheelchair warrior, and it has become a tool for me to spread happiness all over the world. If being a wheelchair confined person with lot of disabilities can become a designer with one finger, can become a global motivational speaker, an author and happiness coach, along with thousands of national and international recognitions, then what is stopping you to come forward and do something great? That's why today my main motive to address you all, that never ever feel that you are small in this world, because I feel the time has come for all of you to think out of the box and move forward with a noble purpose. Our life is too short to celebrate fully, so we need to give value to every moment. It is never too late to start creating the life which you always dreamed of. Time has come to get up and throw your pain, throw your problems, your helplessness aside, and habit of complaint, and people are judging you. Throw all these things aside and see who you are and accept yourself. Celebrate yourself, because real happiness lies in the gratitude. So be grateful to everyone, grateful to your parents, grateful to your teachers, friends, and everybody in the society who has in one way or other contributed in your successful life. The future belongs to the youth, our youth who are leading the way forward with innovation and change. In order to excel, they only need the right guidance and right opportunities at the right time. So I wish you all the best for your future career and a bright, colorful life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Das Gupta ji. Well, we have to say that we all know about IQ and EQ, but we have to say he brought the HQ today, which is the happiness quotient at the Youth Conclave 2022. Some anecdotes of wisdom which he shared will go a long way in our forum. So thank you so much for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I call upon for the vote of thanks, I'd just like to remind our students and everyone who's logged in that the same login link you'll have to use for tomorrow as well. Also, a special address by Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, is going to be happening in the opening ceremony tomorrow. Also, for the closing ceremony, we've got Dr. K. Sivan Vikram Sarabhai, Distinguished Professor, Department of Space, former Secretary, Department of Space, former Chairman, ISRO. So two very great personalities. We're also having a global panel. So also, there's one more thing, which is the best student also will get felicitated. So we request all the students who participated today to please log in, so that in case your name gets called on, you could get that glorious moment to be on the stage, which is the virtual platform of the forum. Also, we'd love you to have all your colleagues, your students, your institutes participate more in number, because what valuable sessions have been there today. So we'd request you to also propagate this forum ahead and call in all your colleagues as well to join in. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for me to call upon Mr. Shardul Shah, Co-Chairman, IMC YLF, for the vote of thanks. Mr. Shah, over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Friends, I'm sure it was a wonderful day today. And I have really been inspired right now by Dr. Sai Kaustubh Dasgupta's amazing motivational address. Really, it has touched me personally. And I wish for a day where I can personally meet him also and interact with him. And I think it was an excellent session. Thank you, Mr. Dasgupta. I'm also very delighted, friends, to present this vote of thanks after an interesting and knowledgeable day one of IMC YLF. In order to make the society a better place, education is crucial. It not only gives the skills, but also triggers creativity. One definitely needs to stay on top of the latest trends and create agile strategies to engage with the target audience. On behalf of IMC YLF, I take great pleasure in extending the vote of thanks to all our eminent speakers, starting with our moderators, Zeris Master, Binita Dalal, Darshan Hiranandani, Yash Chandan, Asta Grover, Sanjay Mehta, Neil Lalka, Nikunj Parashar, Suhani Mohan. All of them have spoken exceedingly well. And I'm sure all the partner institutes and students from various colleges for their valuable time and also words of wisdom. I am assuring you, I was there, friends. Each of the speakers have spoken very well, and the students are also excellent. I found today's session to be very inspiring personally myself, and I have learned a lot as well. We wish to express on behalf of IMC YLF to a profound thanks to all our sponsors, our gold sponsor, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, our associate sponsors, Ebullient Packaging Private Limited, OC Specialities Private Limited, and Bhavya Containers and Estate Company. Thank you so much to all our sponsors. I would like to thank the IMC YLF team and all the persons behind this particular YLF team for putting in such great effort for an amazing, excellent event on day one. Ladies and gentlemen and students, you all would agree that we made a great start to a very thoughtful day one. Once again, I would like all of you to be there tomorrow and wish you great learning, and stay tuned for tomorrow as we have a very power-packed day 2 of this conclave. As rightly mentioned by Bhavna, we are going to have a special address by Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, and Dr. K. Sivan, Vikram Sarabhai, Distinguished Professor, Department of Space, former Secretary, Department of Space, and former Chairman, ISRO, on sessions of Digital India at 100, Inclusive Growth. We are going to have a session on green initiatives, Climate Smart India, and envisaging India's future, a global perspective, and students from various colleges will be participating. I request all of you friends to please join us tomorrow, and also request your fellow colleagues and friends to join as well. And also, please don't forget, students will be felicitated with certificates, and the best student speakers will be conferred at the closing ceremony. So please do join us tomorrow. It will be truly inspiring to have all of you once again tomorrow and encourage all of us. Thank you one and all, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. As you rightly said, ladies and gentlemen, we're concluding with the day one, but of course, the conclusion leads us to another great day two or tomorrow. We'll see you back on this wonderful platform. We hope you all had a great time. For now, this is me, Bhavna Bhatia, signing off on behalf of our team. We had a great day, but see you all tomorrow. Thank you once again.
Oh, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. Yes, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. I don't wanna hear all of your worries about the cat. I'm pretty sure that he always used to look like that. Just because the hors d'oeuvres have disappeared and I'm a little fat doesn't mean I do it. I'm a good dog. I'm a real,
Good dogs can make bad decisions. Protect them with FG Dog Health Cover, a comprehensive health insurance plan that covers surgery and hospitalization, emergency pet minding, vet visits, and more.